I heard that. And we're live from Toronto, going worldwide in a very much anticipated top 10 favorite leather perfumes with good friend Rich Mitch. Yeah, buddy! And Rich Mitch, we've been talking about doing this for years and years and years, and the day has come.
The day has come.
It's only like 1 or 2 days of planning, but I'm excited for this because we've been talking about it for so long. But not only that, this is a list that I've been forming in my head for years and years and years, and on notepads and crossing out and adding and subtracting and always keeping like a compiling list of what my favorite leathers are. How about you?
Absolutely. I have been having a rare old think about this for a long time. It's always been like one of those things that I've always raised. Well, I say I always raised, like it keeps coming like to the surface mentally every once in a while, and then I would like say to you, we still need to do that top 10 leather, and it's been percolating in my subconscious for quite a while.
The hardest part about doing this all is there's so many good leathers that end up getting left out.
Oh God, I wrote down 24 last night, right? When I was like trying to crystallize the list, there was 24 leathers, and I was like, oh God, and then I was like, what's my criteria for what I think is like the top leather? And then I was like, what's the one that you think smells the best? It's just that's the only criteria. It's a very simple criteria, but when you're sitting there with 24 fragrances in front of you saying which one of these smells the best and why, it's like, oh God. But I slept on it and I'm pretty happy with my list.
Yeah. I've done mine sort of the same way. Which one of these do I enjoy wearing the most? Not necessarily which one do I think is the greatest or the best or the artistic or the longest lasting, but which one of these do I enjoy wearing the most in that sort of thing, that order. So, and again, like so many greats, and they don't necessarily have to be characterized as a leather, like on Fragrantica or even by the brand. But as long as it feels like a leather perfume to you, we'll accept that.
Yes, absolutely. As long as it's what you consider to be a personal favorite and you consider it to be a leather, as long as it's not like outrageous like Acqua di Gio, you know what I mean?
Right.
Now I'm thinking, has Acqua di Gio got a sneaky leather note in it? I'm sure it doesn't, but maybe it does, because it's used as like not a cure-all, but it's used as like a base note in so many perfumes. There's so many I've got on my list where I was like, has that got a leather note in? And it doesn't smell like it's got a leather note in, but it has.
Yeah.
You know? So strange.
Yeah. Leather is a favorite note of mine. It's always been a favorite note of mine. I look for leather-themed perfumes. I love them. I enjoy them. I guess because there's so many great things you can do with leather. You know, I love the old school feeling of leather, like dirty, animalic, a sense of something that was once alive. Bonus points if I can smell like fangs and hair and musks and stuff like that. Something a little bit salty.
Yeah, there's a couple of salty leathers here as well.
What kind of things do you enjoy in your leathers?
The thing is with leather, you can go lots of different ways from the base of leather. You know, it's a little bit like patchouli like that. You can take it in many different, it's almost like spherical, you know, and you can just pick a direction in 3 dimensions, which way you want to go from it. I like buttery leather. I like those 80s leathers. that can be dark but also fresh. You know, I like a complex leather. Um, Not usually too animalic, although leather tends to be an animalic. I like a smoke. I would probably say my favorite kind is like a smoky, oily, smoky kind of leather. You know,
Yeah.
and then just behind that, I would say it's probably like a buttery, like IBQ type of thing like that. Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of. I've got a horrible mention here that has that kind of buttery, like green, salty kind of vibe. You know, it's not just like there's a lot going on. Like I say, you can use leather as a scaffold to do all sorts in a perfume. But I have designed my list with what I think are probably the best smelling leathers to my nose.
Are you giving us your honorable
Oh, you want to
mention?
see my horrible mention? Sorry.
Or we can just keep going. We can keep going.
No, no. We will start. We will start with the horrible mentions because I know you've got a horrible
Yeah,
mention as well.
I've got an honorable horrible mention. Yes, I do.
Horrible mention. So my horrible mention is this from Rochas in the 1980s, I think, and this is Macassar. This is Rochas Macassar. This is reminiscent of Polo Green. It's got like a big pine needle type thing going on. It's green. It is smoky. Imagine Polo Green with leather instead of tobacco. You know, it's it's buttery. It's woody. There's a big oak moss in there. I do like a big oak moss. It's got like this kind of floral thing going on in the middle with a bit of jasmine and carnation. I always think when you smell jasmine and carnation together, you get this kind of smooth, slightly smoky, slightly spicy kind of thing, and it fits together with the pine tree needles, or the pine needles, I should say. It's a little bit green. It's not, but not fresh. It's not like a fresh green, you know. It's like an austere green. It's definitely got that. When you smell pine needles, do you know how they're a little bit dry and almost like salty kind of things? They're very hard. Yeah, snappy. It's absolutely nuclear, as almost all of these. I'm looking at all of these fragrances, and they're all absolutely nuclear. That's one of the things about leather perfumes, that they're usually huge. You know, they're gonna do some damage as far as performance is concerned, which is always a bonus. You know, we like perfumes that like hang around because you're paying a lot of money for them. It's not a prerequisite for smelling good, but it's a bonus, a boon, if you will. And yes, that is my horrible mention from 1980, Rochas Macassar.
Awesome. All right, so my honorable mention is something that I've been talking about on my channel for years, usually in disgust because I do not like it. However, just because I do not like it doesn't mean other people don't. I love the idea of this perfume. However, I greatly struggle with the execution, and that's my strong dislike for this. But this is Santal 33 from Le Labo, which is a leather-based perfume. And I have this up here because I think this is the start of a lot of other things. This was the start of a lot of clones, so it was kind of groundbreaking when it came out. And I like this because I see so many different facets of a perfume in one thing. Like I can look at it in one way and I see dill, fig. Um, I look at it in another way. I see like leathery chaps on a cowboy that's out by a campfire. I look at it another way and I get that really green, dry um sandalwood, right? There's sandalwood here and here, but it's not the oily sandalwood that we love. This is that more dry, bitter, green, spicy sandalwood. But overall, I get a very large context of leather in here, and I like it. It's raspy, it's rough, it's birch tarry, it's spicy. However, I like smelling this in the moment, but I don't enjoy wearing this because it's so damn loud and abrasive and aggressive, and it's got that Le Labo style that I don't like. It's very blocky and choppy, and it feels unfinished to me. However, I do have, as much as I hate it, I have a massive appreciation for the idea of what this is trying to do, and it was the first of its kind. So,
Yeah.
Santal 33.
Santal 33. I have smelled it. To me, it smells a little, like you say, it smells blocky. You know, it smells
blocky. And I've always wanted somebody like a French brand to do this, like, something very finer. I would appreciate this in fine French perfume, but then Guerlain went and they did something like Santal Poderosa, and when I smell it, like I'm always reminded of Santal 33. So it will forever ruin any kind of idea that's done in this manner going forward. So as much as I love it, I hate it. It's just like this really weird relationship I have with it. But love the idea, hate the execution.
Yeah,
it's just one of those things. But
no, I
overall,
understand.
it's just not for me. It's not for me, but I understand why so many people enjoy it.
Oof.
And that's my honorable, horrible mention.
Horrible mention. Okay, then I shall start at the beginning. Number 10. My number 10 on my top 10 perfumes, leather perfumes. Anyway, sorry, I'm just giving it a little wipe. When you get the old microfiber brush, it's actually quite addictive, isn't it? It's very hard to stop. It's very hard to stop. But here I am. My number 10, and Ramsey
problem for you.
Sorry?
Is that microfiber becoming a problem?
It is becoming a problem. I'm going to start collecting them. My number 10, and I got my original vintage bottle out for this. Ramsey will be raging in his pen. This is Hermes Bellamy. This is my number 10. Released in 1986 by Hermes from Jean-Louis Suzac. It's a rather famous leather, because it was based on, well, it wasn't based on, but it was like a nod to a really popular novel in France, and it's called like Good Friend, and it's one of those 80s leather, and there are quite a few of those here. Well, there's a few. That is probably my favorite style of leather. Me and you I think we were talking about this before we went live. Or was it when we went live? It was about like what your favorite type of leather is, and this is probably the one that appeals to me in deepest, darkest, like November and December, like when the weather's really foul and it's turned, and you want something that gives strength and has like reminds you of, it reminds you like to keep going. And there's a smokiness in this that's like a black smoke. Reminds me of, you don't have that over there, but it's, we have Bonfire Night, which is like Guy Fawkes in like the 5th of November. And we have like massive bonfires on that day, and that kind of reminds me a bit of that. It's like a really smoky, dark leather, big and almost black, like a black leather. You know, there's going to be a lot of referring to like what color you get from the leathers in my list, and this is, to me, is like a black leather jacket. You know, with like padding on the you know, like the inside of the jacket to give like a bit of a buffer against the wind. And this has got a lot of oak moss, which is another one of my favorite notes. I could do a list on oak moss. Carnation, which is another note that will feature heavily in this list for me. And I think it's an IBQ leather. You know, it's got that classic sort of chypre style. I like a leather chypre. I don't like chypres. I don't like floral chypres, but I like leather chypres. And this is like one of the epitomes of this. And this is my number 10. This is the original shaker bottle. I thought I would just get it out for all to behold. I am extremely fortunate to own one of these because the prices of this are absolutely crazy now.
They've always been for a long time. And I'm not going to ask you any questions about Bellamy quite yet, because my number 10 is also Bellamy. I'll tell you what I think of it, and then we'll go back and forth and ask some questions. But I agree with pretty much everything you've said. It is a big, smoky, tarry opening. And it's almost like plumes of black smoke and tar, resins and spices. I get a lot of Indian cooking spices to this. And again, that leathery, mossy base. I've got this listed. I love this. However, I find this a little bit too much. And that's why I've got it down at number 10. It's a brilliant leather, but I find myself suffocating in this most times, and I got to go really light on the trigger. It's just a very dense, thick smoke. It's just like plumes of smoke, balsams, a lot of like green notes. I think, did you say pine? Yeah, I'm getting pine from this as well.
It's apparently, according to Fragrantica, it's got a coconut note, but a lot of people say that that's a miss. That's like a misnomer. It's like doesn't actually have coconut. I mean, I've never smelled anything remotely coconut about it.
This does have kind of like a cowboy context to it. I picture a cowboy out at I don't know, like leather jacket on a motorcycle or something.
Yeah, it feels like dirty hands rubbed on jeans, doesn't it? Like it feels like oily hands rubbed on jeans.
There might even be like a petrol accord in there somewhere.
Yeah, like a fossil fuel accord.
Yeah,
you know, like coal or fucking oil, some kind of like work. Like,
go on. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say it smells like you were saying about plumes of black smoke. It smells like, I don't want to say like a chemical spill, but it smells like, do you know when people burn plastic and the smoke's acrid and it's thick,
acidic.
Yeah, it's got that. I mean, I know like you love like fine French perfume, and I think this is fine French perfume on the limit. You know, I think it's
like Middle Eastern style almost.
Yeah, it's so big and so hefty, and it's like they've taken fine French perfume as far from like the fine aspect of that. Yeah, as far from the fine aspect, because it is fine. Don't get us wrong. The top with the spices, sage, cardamom, and it's got like florals in the middle. I think there's iris in there. It can be the far dry down. It can be quite smooth, but it's also got this kind of acrid vibe to it. You know, like an I don't want to say an angry sort of thing, but like there's something a little bit like unnerving about it.
It's very bad boy masculine. It's a dude on a motorcycle with a leather jacket with attitude. That's what it feels like to me. It's got a lot of spunk and attitude.
Yes, a lot of spunk.
It's bold perfume. It's not light or for an insecure personality. It's very, very bold, very forward. It's a heavy perfume, very dense. It's a lot of personality, and it takes up a lot of space, is what it is.
Yes, absolutely.
It completely fills a room.
It is. It's huge. It's a massive, massive perfume. But yes, that was my number 10 and your number 10, apparently.
All right.
Do you want to do your number 9, or shall I?
Yeah, if you want to go, yeah, sure, we can switch it up. All right, number 9. And I've got Ralph Lauren Original Polo or Polo Green. And I've got this on here because this is something that I've had for a very long time in my collection. Not this bottle, but it's one of the very first perfumes I've ever been associated with or have been gifted as a young child. And I remember wearing it early teens and thinking, this is such a strong, powerful, masculine perfume. And again, like at that age, I really struggled to wear it because I found it suffocating and heavy and dense. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what it was saying. I loved like the mysteriousness of it all, the darkness. I didn't really understand at that age what the perfume was saying. I just knew it was a lot. It was a statement maker, but I just remember there's times where I found myself not being able to breathe because of how strong and powerful this stuff was coming off of me. But, many years later, I've always remembered it, and I went back to it, and I look at it now, and I think it's an absolutely brilliant theme on masculinity, and also this leathery, piney, tobacco-ish. Also this petrol accord, and it's very dry. It's very dry and woody and mossy, super dry. But then you got these really nice, it's almost like citruses and balsams to contrast that dryness and give it a little bit of wetness and freshness. So it's got that kind of fresh, minty, piney thing going, and given contrast against woods and leathers. And again, this feels like to me a very motorcycle-ish, driving through a forest sort of thing with pine and tobacco. It's very textured. I get a lot of roughage from this, almost as if you would take like leather and patchouli and tobacco and make a juicy smoothie from it, and then get rid of the juice and take those grinds, those rinds, that pulp that's left over at the bottom.
Mulch.
That mulch. That's what it feels like to me. It's very textured, and then you got that really nice kind of fresh citruses and mints and balsams, giving that beautiful contrast.
I had the original release of this by Warner, and I had the Cosmere version as well, and I sold my bottles. Some of the early victims of my selling perfume. Like you were saying about like Bellamy, I found it very difficult to wear. I also found it very dry, like extremely dry. Those pine needle, like desiccated pine needles. And I felt like it was sucking the moisture out of like me, Yeah. Polo Green's one of those fragrances, right, that knowing me, I should like, but I don't. and it's very hard to explain why. And I think it's the sheer dryness of it. It feels like I'm almost choking on my. It feels
Yeah.
like I'm almost choking on my own sillage when I would wear it and stuff like that. And I didn't get any relief the further the perfume went down. The tobacco note in it was very dry. The leather in it was very dry. The pine needles were like painfully dry on me.
And I
Uh,
believe there's a castoreum in here to dry it out some more, even further.
so that will be part of the leather, you would have thought. And it's at the top. It's got this slight zing to it, you know. So there's some kind of like fizz at the top, very short lived, right? That if you just immediately put it on when it's fresh, you'll get like a little bit of greenness and a little bit of fizziness, and you're like, this like, how's this going to develop? And then it just from there on out, it's like walking across a desert, you know. But it's not necessarily hot; it's just extremely dry.
There's a
You
lot
know?
going on here. Again, this is one of those perfumes that you can look at so many different ways and pick up different contexts. But this is the only polo that I own. I don't own any other Ralph Lauren. This is the only
Okay.
Ralph Lauren that I've ever really jived with. Anything else that came out after wasn't really for me. And even after this was released, I can't, as brilliant and wonderful as it is, I don't remember anyone else really trying to do this. It didn't take off like trendy things usually do.
Yeah. Do you think when it came out, it felt old fashioned?
Possibly, it's got that
Yes.
kind of yet again meets, I don't know. Um, it's not the easiest thing to wear. I'll tell you that.
No, I don't find it easy to wear. I
Yeah,
really don't. I think it's one of those perfumes you've got to dress in a certain way with it. You know, like some perfumes you can just throw on with anything. You
yeah.
know, with Polo Green, it feels as though you've got to. It feels like an older man's fragrance.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I think it felt like that when it was released. Like, it felt like it from a bygone era. It was released in 1978, right? But you can't imagine like the young dudes from like the mid to late 70s, the guys who would go to like the working men's clubs and the like the bars and stuff like
Yeah,
that, or like the discos. You can't
right.
imagine them wearing that then. This has always been like a fragrance like you would typically have thought for blokes in their 50s and up.
Yeah.
Like
Guy
it's
in a
very
suit.
much, yeah, exactly, in a suit and stuff like that, and of a certain standing as well. You know, like they've got like a decent job, or like that they're serious. You know, they're not just like there for they're not just there for like shits and giggles. They want like they want to do business. Like they're serious about what they're up to. Um, Very dry again. Like that was the main thing I took away from it. And in the end, I just knew I was never going to wear it. And even though I had these coveted bottles, and I liked the idea of owning it more than I liked the actual practicality of owning it, so I ended up selling it.
Mm. You want to hear something crazy? So when Amen came out, and the first time I smelt Amen, I started to get like resemblances to Polo. And I know they don't smell anything alike, but I almost feel like Amen, because they're both really big, bold, powerful perfumes. Like Amen kind of fit the skeleton of this. It's just a much sweeter, candier version of Polo. That's what it felt like to me. And I'm not quite sure what it was at that time that I was picking up in context, the similarity, but it was just something. Maybe it was patchouli or something leathery in the base, but the context of the perfumes were very loud, very bold, very big, and they shared some things that reminded me of each other.
Wow. I would need to smell them. I would need to smell them both. I haven't got pulled out of hand anymore. I would need to smell both of those like side by side. Maybe there's an ingredient, that doesn't necessarily have like its own like allegory in smell. Like maybe there's like some sort of like booster ingredient or fixative in there. That's because Amen is it. Like you said, don't smell
castoreum in Amen.
No. No, there's no castoreum in Amen. I imagine that would be bonkers. Can you imagine castoreum in Amen? That is something to behold.
Okay, so that is my number 9.
Okay, so my number 9, and this is going to come as a shock because it is so low on the list, but I couldn't in good conscience not include this. It is one of the most important fragrances ever made, and it's not the only fragrance from this. It's not the only fragrance from this house that is on this list. But you will be shocked to see that my number 9 is Chanel's Cuir de Russie. Now, if we were doing a list based on how important or objectively what are like the best leathers ever, this would probably be in the top 2 or 3, if not top, because of everything it is and everything it was and has been for 100 years. This is my 1980s bottle. So this is the re-release done by Jacques Polge, and it's absolutely stunning. I prefer it hugely to the Les Exclusives version. When you smell them side by side, that the animalic side of this, the civet sort of side of this is much more pronounced, much more indolic with the jasmine and the florals in the mid. It smells like Chanel. It smells like what you assume a Chanel boutique would smell like, with all the leather bags and the leather goods and the perfumes and the vibe, the black, everything's black in Chanel, with like the little black dress and everything like that. It's got some slightly indolic florals in it, like orange flower and jasmine, but it's also got birch in it, and the birch for me is this is much more akin to Bellamy for me than it is to some of the other leathers that are on my list. It's a black leather, but it's a very classy black leather. It's not like Bellamy in the fact that it's a massive whack across the head. This version is powerful. The modern version isn't as strong as this. And I think this is slightly less floral. It's much more based on the leather. The more modern version's based much more on the heart, with like the jasmine and the rose and the ylang ylang. This version for me is much more based on leather, birch, and a bit of the civet. There's a completeness about this. There's and I mean, take this with a pinch of salt if you want, but there is the slightest amount of sweetness, and it comes from one of the florals. It could be like the rose, it could be like some sort of resin that's in it, but it's just there just to stop it from going into Bellamy territory. It's just a little bit of like subtlety, just a little bit of balance, a little bit of palatability, because there's a lot about this fragrance that could push you away, because it's a distant fragrance. It's a lot like I say again, it represents the Chanel aesthetic very well.
Mm.
It's very stay at least at arm's length, if not look at it from across the room. You know, it's standoffish, but at the same time, it's got that kind of regret about it. That it does. It's got a smell of regret, and it's. I don't necessarily mean that in a negative way. It's very. It's an incredible thing. Like I say, if the criteria for this list was what do you think is objectively the best leather ever, this would be very hard for another fragrance to push this off number one. But it's the ones that and I think the other 8, I actually prefer wearing them. I find this a very tough wear because you feel the weight of the history behind it. You know, like I can imagine being out and some austere old like lord's wife will pull me to one side and say, "You wearing Quaderusi?" And I'd just be like, "Oh God, yes." Why? And she'd be like, "Take that off right now. You don't deserve to wear that. You're far too. You don't know. You don't know what it means to wear this fragrance. Get out of here." You know, it's got this. It feels like you've got to have like
the chamber, mate.
Yeah, yeah. But that is my number 9.
Do you find it feminine?
Mm.
Is that part of maybe why you find it difficult to wear?
It's got this feminine heart with the concentration on the jasmine and the civet, and the jasmine and the civet have this kind of association with being feminine, like it's a feminine accord. The mid is very much a feminine accord, and with this being 100 years ago, I remember Super Jacob describing this as like leather for women, because before that, leather fragrances were like just for men, you know. And this was like one of the first ones to include the birch and all of that sort of thing. One of the previous Russian leathers, the original Guerlain Russian leather, which I actually think is superior to this. I don't own it, and I would love to own it, but it's got this massive iris note in it, which is absolutely stunning. But this is associated, because this has stood the test of time for 100 years, because it's so associated with Chanel and class and probably femininity, yes, with that floral sort of ylang, jasmine, rose heart. Yes, I do associate it with femininity. I also associated it with like class, like a class structure. Like there would be like, it smells like wealthy old money women should be wearing it. Like, and I'm projecting that. That's not. There's nothing about the fragrance that says that. That's just what I associate it with. So I do find it difficult to wear, and that could be the reason why.
All right, perfect.
Marvelous.
Number 9? Is that your number 9?
That is my number 9.
Okay. Number 9. And I'm going to go with my number 8. And this is, let me towel dry her. Her. She needs a towel dry. Okay. This is from the luxury designer brand. This is Bottega Veneta. And they had branched out. They're a leather goods producer, and they had branched out and decided to get into fragrance and have a perfume made to represent their leather line of goods. And this is what they've made. This is for women. I find this much more interesting than the more woody versions they've made for men, like the piney things. This replicates leather goods, handbags, stuff like that. It's a soft suede leather. It gets quite spicy. It opens up very soft, almost mousy, and then as you wear it, as the day goes on, it is, in its complexity, it starts to grow and morph, and it's very interesting for a designer level. This is, I find this quite brilliant and just an amazing wear. When I don't want something too challenging or smoky, but something soft, subtle, if Guerlain's Queer Beluga is a little bit too boring for you, this is something like that, less vanillic, more spicy, way more interesting, a better wear, and just very soft, elegant, cozy. Really,
What's it
really,
called?
it's just called Bottega Veneta Eau de Parfum. And
Okay.
I don't find this feminine at all. It's got some florals in there, jasmine, but it's got like a huge patchouli to kind of offset that. It's a tad animalic, I would call it. It's got like a little bit of purr, which is it's got as much purr as the designer world would allow without getting offended. It's got purr, but it's not offensive either. If
No,
you
I
know,
understand. I
yeah.
don't know that I don't know that I've smelled this. I certainly don't own it. But it's nice to see like a designer, like reasonably priced fragrance on the list. I'm trying to look at mine. I mean, some of mine were like reasonably priced once upon a time, and now they're really like most of them aren't. But it's you used to like even as recently as like 5-10 years ago, you used to get fragrances like that where they would be extremely accessible, and you would get something that was not just formulaic. It didn't smell like focus groups. It didn't smell like data. It smelled like you would get something. Does it
Artificial
smell?
intelligence.
Does it smell? Yeah. Does it smell traditional? Has it got like traditional aspects to it?
For a designer perfume, it does have that old soul to it. It's something. It's a cross between, let's say, Russian leather and a Birkin bag. Something along
Okay.
that lines. It does have maybe a touch of birch, but it's not smoky at all. It's more soft and suede-y, very smooth, very very smooth. It's beautiful. It's stunning. It's a beautiful wear.
Do
It
you
wears,
find it easy to wear?
yeah, yeah. It is sweet. There is a touch of sweetness in it, but I tolerate this very much. It doesn't feel like I'm tolerating anything, to be honest.
Yeah. Has it got patchouli?
Yeah,
Do you
it's
think the
got
sweetness could
patchouli
be
and
coming from the
spices.
patchouli?
So that is what's that, number 8? That's my number 8.
Okay. So my number 8 is one that I think you've got. I will towel this off because I think this is a. I will call it a they or a them because I think this is genuinely unisex. I think if you're a man, it'll bring out the masculine sides. I think if you're a woman, it'll bring out the feminine side. It is from a designer. I'm trying to think here. Is there any niche? There's one. No, there's two, maybe three niche fragrances here, but the rest of them are designers. How strange. But this is from a private line or a privé, if you prefer. And this is Dior's Queer Canage. This is absolutely sensational. I find this to be. I actually prefer this to Queer de Russie in almost every way. I think it's eminently more wearable. Certainly for me, I think that the size of the bottle allows you to wear it because you can just use that big old Dior sprayer, and there's a big truckload of perfume there. I enjoy the experience of spraying it when the experience of spraying it when I get to pick up the bottle, and then I get this blast of, and it's not a note I particularly like, right? But I get this blast of like orange blossom, like this orangey leather thing comes out, and I'm like, it's like a syrup though. You know, it's thick and goopy. It's like, what are you doing? It has no right to work. This is Demarche at his best. And I mean, we have battered Demarche, right? but it's only because he used to reach heights like this. Do you know what I mean? He used to make perfumes that smelled like this, and then he started releasing Sauvage, and he started releasing Diorama. Is that what it's called? And fucking the vanilla, the shit, all of that. And I now prefer this to Leather Oud, right? Which is absolutely scandalous to say, right? Because I love Leather Oud, but I actually I know it's a terrible thing.
How are we friends?
It's do you know what it is? I'm outraged at myself. I fell out with myself when I heard this. I give myself a stern talking to, I can tell you. I was like, what are you doing? But Leather Oud's not on this list.
You're giving me anxiety, right? Dude. I'm getting
I had anxiety. I lay awake crying in the corner last night. I couldn't look at Leather Oud. I couldn't face it. It was a disgrace. I apologize profusely, but it's I'll tell you what I think it is, right? It's this. It does what Cuir de Russie does, right? But in a very modern way. It's Rich is broken, yes. It's got this. I don't know if you've ever smelled the Guerlain Cuir de Russie, right? But that's got an iris in it like this has, right? Demachy's story about this fragrance was him going into his loft and opening his mother's or his grandmother's old makeup bag and smelling the iris from the perfume and the leather note and everything. And it's got that austere kind of vibe to it. But it's like the 21st century Cuir de Russie. It's like Cuir de Russie without all that history, without all that baggage, without all that kind of weight. And like, if I wore this, an old grandma wouldn't come over to us and be like, how dare you wear that perfume? You know, it's got a modern edge to it that like gives you permission. It like, I don't get the anxiety with this that I get with Cuir de Russie. You know, I get this on me from the cap, right? It smells very different to what it smells like on me, on my skin. I get Dior Homme, right, with that iris, but not Dior Homme Parfum with the leather. It's similar, but the floral notes in this and the birch give it this kind of stern aspect. So it's got this syrupy, goopy, like orange blossom, ylang sort of like richness at the top, and then it transitions through the iris, through the jasmine, through the rose, jasmine and the rose again, like the Chanel Cuir de Russie heart. So it goes down through those notes, and they take it down into the leather and the birch and the iris. And I'll tell you what, there's an absolute rascal in this, which is it sits there and it's very, very, very subtle, but it gives a slight purpleness to the fragrance, and it's violet, right? And it harkens back, right? It harkens back. The violet in this combined with the birch harkens back to Fahrenheit, right? So it sort of goes, it goes through it's like Cuir de Russie, but it's referencing Dior heritage. Do you know what I mean? Like with the violet and the birch and the leather, it's very, very clever when you see it like that, and you think Demachy's time at Dior for me wasn't great. Certainly not towards the end. But you've got to remember, Leather Oud mitts are like the Ambre Nuit, like some of the Cuir Cunage, some of Patchouli Imperial, the Eau Sauvage Parfum. You know, some of the fragrances he released were absolutely brilliant. For me, this is one of the best ones, if not the best one he released when he was at Dior. I've often thought about doing a video on that, which is like Demachy's best. But for me, you know how I split my perfume into like autumn and winter and spring and summer? I haven't even done that yet, and I'm already missing the fact that I won't be able to wear this for 6 months. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be wearing this once or twice over the next week or so, because it's a week today I change. but I absolutely love this stuff. It's so strong. It's so powerful. It's everything you want from Dior, you know. And
It is.
I do actually. Sorry.
It is. I admit it is one of the better ones from Francis Damashi and the Dior Privé line. And I agree with you fully. This does feel like an excellent modern leather. And as smoky and birchy and scratchy as it is, it's all done in this really refined, soft, well rounded way. It doesn't come across as scratchy or rough. It's really elegant, and I like the use of leather in this. I love the use of that saddle leather, soft saddle leather, almost handbag approach, and it gets a little bit powdery on me. It gets cosmetic-y, which I really like.
Yeah, I must admit, I do actually like that. It's like one of those things. It's like you wear it, and it it doesn't come out straight away though. That cosmetic sort of irisy sort of metrosexual vibe. It capitalizes on the groundwork laid by Dior Homme. Again, like I said about it referencing Fahrenheit, it also references Dior Homme. You know, so it sort of it reaches back into Dior's history, but it it's definitely got that Cuir de Russie aspect about it, and I I think it smells a lot more like Guerlain's Cuir de Russie than it does Chanel's Cuir de Russie. I don't expect everybody to have smelled. I was extremely fortunate to get like a mill of that stuff from Peter Kokor, and so I could like just reference it. It's fucking glorious. That would be, I'm telling you, that would be probably top of my list if I had a bottle.
Mm.
It's absolutely incredible.
It's good. It's really good. I really like this as well, but I don't.
Yes. This is
I'm always reminded of obviously Cuir de Russie, and whenever I smell this, this is a big perfume. This is again a really bold perfume, and you need to invest the time to wear this. This is a full day investment, and because it's so big, I always prefer the lighter Cuir de Russie, and I guess that's why I'll wear Cuir de Russie 9 times out of 10. Like the one time I wear this, I'll wear Cuir de Russie 9 times. It's just my preference.
Yeah, no, I totally agree about it being
this. I love kind of what it does, but Cuir de Russie is just way more my jam. But yeah, great leather perfume. Great.
I absolutely love it. That is my number 8.
It's got a nice jasmine in it that gives it some sweetness. I like that the floral aspect of this floral leather.
It's got that. It's got that. I mean, even the iris smell. Like I say, the violet affects the iris in this kind of makes it like a little bit more floral. You know how you can get iris smelling like concrete, you can get iris smelling like really waxy and stuff. The violet sort of opens the iris up a little bit and makes it smell more like the flower that it is. You know, it gives it that. I mean, it's very delicate. The violet in this, it's not like a violet leaf or a violet perfume by any stretch, but it's such a clever little fucking thing to put in there just to accentuate. That's why perfumers are perfumers, and I'm just a fucking duck. Do you know what I mean? It's like I can appreciate it, but it's not something I could ever do. It's very impressive, in my opinion. I really rate Cuir Canage.
Yeah, great one. I agree. So what number are we on now? We got 10, 9, 8, 7. Is this 7?
Your number 7?
Okay. My number 7, Guerlain Derby, and this is the wood frame bottle.
Ooh.
This might show up later on again in the stream.
It may do.
Right? Again, a very dressed up leather. This is a crosshatch of a barbershop fougere and leathery chypre, I would call it. And this very citrusy, spicy, a beautiful contrast of citrus and spice and lavender and florals, and it's got that barbershop fougere, which to me, I always picture like this is dressed up, this is a suit, a hat, and going out to the racetrack after a good shave and a haircut at the barbershop. It's a day out with the boys. Grab the paper, bet on horses, and enjoy the time. I get a very soft, subtle leather to this. Almost, I want to call it like the softest saddle leather because I get horsey vibes from this. I get
hoof.
I get hoof. I do. I get hoof. I get dirt. I get kind of the smell of the earth that a racetrack would smell like if you've ever gone.
Yeah.
I get that kind of pasture smell without being offensive. It's all done really respectfully. It's not vulgar at all.
No, absolutely not. No,
there's nothing animalic or dirty. It's all pure class, clean, elegant, sophisticated, old world. Again, a perfume with old soul. That's what it's got, and that's what I love about it. Beautiful wear.
It is an absolutely beautiful wear. I had a bottle of that, and when I got my vintage one, I was like, well, I'll just sell that one. And I sold it for more than what I paid for it, and I'd used a bit of it. I'd used like 5 mil, and I sold it for more than what I paid for it, and now it's actually 2.5 times more. And I mean, I only sold it last year. The price of those wood frame bottles has gone through the roof. And I had that, and it is different from when I show my bottle. I'll discuss more because mine's a different one. But I have had that one. For me, the main note in that perfume for me, apart from the leather, was the carnation. I got the spiciness from it, but that smooth, slightly spicy, like you say, classy. It gave it that classy sort of Guerlain like sheen to it, like that smoothness, that blend. It starts off. You do get the bergamot at the top, and then you get this floral mid, which allows the leather to like seep in, and it performs beautifully. It is a very good retelling. It's not the same smell as the old one, sorry, but it's a very good retelling. It's absolutely shocking that they discontinued. I mean, they discontinued it again. I mean, once is fucking like terrible, twice is carelessness. They made the mistake twice of getting rid of it. Just make smaller sudden batches.
They're making lots of mistakes these days, and I think discontinuing Derby is probably like one on the lowest of things that we should be considering. Right? What's going on over there? They're no longer Guerlain. This is
it's LVMH now. It's an LVMH.
Like
it's LVMH.
They've turned into a TikTok brand, is what's going on over there.
That's a pretty good way of putting it, to be honest with you. Yeah, they're like a minute. That's basically their like raison d'etre now, or their modus operandi is probably the right way of putting it. It's like, smell the first minute of this perfume. Do you like it? Buy it.
Quick,
you know
and easy,
what I mean?
Fast.
Yeah, exactly. Quickly, just give us your money. We're Guerlain. We've got 250 years of experience. But fuck it, we'll throw that out the window to get your fucking $200, your $500 for stuff that really we shouldn't be putting our name to. It's not fine. We were talking about fine French perfume earlier. It's no longer fine French perfume coming out of Guerlain, which is an absolute tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy. Guerlain was never my favorite house, even though it's not my favorite house, I own plenty of Guerlains. And it's like, you smell them now, and it's like, how did it get to this point? Like what happened? You know what I'm saying? Like, when it's come very quickly. like even like 7 or 8 years ago when you were buying all those bottles from the Girl on Boutique in Toronto, like even then they were still had like they were releasing really good stuff, and they had some epic stuff. I mean, don't get us wrong, some of it with the sheer volume of perfume that they released, you're gonna get some ones that blow, but all of them now the balance is tipped the other way. All of them are shit now, and maybe once in a while they'll release a good one. You know, it's poor.
Absolutely.
It's poor.
Absolutely shit. I agree with you.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so that was Derby. That was my 10, 9, 8, 7. 10, 9, 7. That was my number 7.
So this is my number 7. My number 7 is something a little bit different. And this, again, if we were doing perfumes based on the objective quality and impact of the perfumes, then this wouldn't be anywhere near the list. But I absolutely love this for reasons which I shall discuss. And this is Francesco Smalto's Borom. I fucking love this. This is a bottle I bought from Chris from Scentland, and I remember when he was discussing it, and it was when I was first getting into vintage perfume. And it was when I was first like explored. Well, it's not available anymore. They don't retail it anymore, so it was discontinued. And I remember him describing it as like this, what he called a smoky Italian leather, and which I would totally agree with. This is a smoky Italian leather, released in I think 1990. But this is one of my favorite fragrances, as you can see by the fill level on this bottle. Like there's like a third of that bottle left. 30 to between 30 and 40 mil. It's an impressive dent for someone. This was released in 1987. It's got this. It's a fougere. It's got lavender and rosemary and cedar and patchouli and carnation and oak moss, tonka bean, leather, and it was one of my first introductions to what Italian perfume really is. It holds a lot of memories for me with my journey in Fragcom, because I used to collect fragrances before I even knew there was a Fragcom, and I'd watched videos for years. After I found out there was a Fragcom, I watched videos for years on YouTube, and then the YouTube community was much smaller back then, so I didn't know that there was anything outside of that. I didn't know that there was base notes and like Fragrantica, and there was like meetups and people were like obsessed with fragrances. This is one of the first fragrances, and it was with me, it accompanied me as I found these things out, you know. I can't remember exactly when I bought this. I didn't start commenting on videos until like 2016, 17. But I'd been watching them for years before that. And this reminds me of when I started getting more involved in Fragcom, where I wasn't just watching videos and observing. You know, this reminds me of the beginning of exploration, you know. It's a scent memory thing. I can't justify, like, I mean, don't get us wrong, it's quality, especially the older bottles. It's quality perfume. It's like the oak moss is very smoky. It goes beautifully with like the lavender and the rosemary. It's a fougere. It's an aromatic fougere.
I've got a bottle of that. I just don't know where it is.
I remember you saying to me that you smelled it and you thought it smelled like a really, I don't want to say middle of the road, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's like you said it smelled like a really typical fougere fragrance, like it was very much of that ilk,
like a classic from that
yeah
age. Yeah, like that's what everything smelled of that day. I remember it having a beautiful citrusy top, like a spicy, citrusy, fresh, spicy, warm, spicy top. I wouldn't even be able to tell you that's a leather. I don't have much experience with it, but
Yeah. I
I
think when the bottles open up a little bit, because I've got some other bottles of it, the same ones made by Parlux, which were the first ones, right? Is the top is anise and lavender and rosemary, and it's got this really, really weird anise note. And I was like, what the hell are you doing here? Because this bottle, the anise note has died right down. It's very much calmer. And it's much more green, and it's much more mossy, and it's got what I call like smoke moss.
yeah,
You know,
there you go. I
it's like,
found my bottle.
yeah, there it is. It's a lovely bottle as well. I love the way it feels.
Beautiful presentation.
Yeah, I really like the way it feels. This is like a fragrance for me that, because it does all these different things, I'm happy to wear this year round. Maybe not in the highest of high heat, you know.
That citrusy green piney top brings to mind polo green.
Come here. Let me have a smell.
Bit.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's got that mossy thing as well. Do you know, like that dry, smoky oak moss? For me, really nice that smells like a worn biker jacket leather.
Yeah.
A little bit smoky. Somebody who's had this jacket for like a former biker.
You know who would wear this perfectly? Tony from The Sopranos, with his unbuttoned shirt and chest hair sticking out, coming into the pool hall to meet up with his buds, smoke a cigar. It
does have this. It smells Italian. It's got this Italian aspect to it, like this quintessentially Italian aspect to it. You know, it's absolutely marvelous. I love it, and it's here based on the fact of the affection I have for it, rather than the fact that I'm saying it's better than Cuir de Russie, because it's not objectively. You couldn't possibly put this anywhere near Cuir de Russie as far as impact, but on me personally, my experience, my memory with it, absolutely love it.
Right.
I absolutely love it. And you can tell because I'm enthusiastic about it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So there's a lot of people coming in. We're at about 100 viewers, and I'll remind you guys that this is Rich, Mitch's, and mine highly anticipated top 10 favorite leather perfumes. And it's not necessarily which leathers we think are the greatest of all times. It's the leathers that we most fondly associate, enjoy wearing for whatever specific reason. And that's what we're here to do, is to share that reason for you. So really quickly, we'll recap, because people have been asking. Your number 10 was Bellamy, and so was mine.
Yes.
My number 9 was Polo Green, and yours was
Cuir de Russie.
Cuir de Russie. And then I went with Bottega Veneta, and
mine was Cuir Canage.
Cuir Canage. And number 6, I had Derby, or was that 7?
That was 7.
7. I had Derby, and you have Small Toe. Okay. All right.
So cool. Number 6.
Number 6. And since we're talking about leathers, I think it would be a crying shame to leave this out. And I do love this perfume. I don't necessarily wear it all the time. And that, again, it's because it is a big perfume. It's bold and powerful. It's Tom Ford, right? I can't wear Tom Ford every day, but I appreciate the hell out of this perfume and what it's done. This was a trend. This was groundbreaking in its time. It was the first to do something like this in that brand new sports car leathery interior, that Aston Martin vibe with an ashtray, tobacco, cigarette, nicotine sort of thing, animalic, musky, growly, spicy, I don't know, spicy thing. And it's got that raspberry. This is always associated and attached to that raspberry, which is really, the raspberry in here is very thin and stretched out thin. It's not overly syrupy or sweet or fruity I find it very thin, just to kind of pair with that brand new sports car, that animalic, growling sports car, ashy interior. So Tuscan leather, and I think it just kind of coming up in a time when this was launched and it got as big as it did, and being there to witness it is part of the reason I have this year, because yeah, being in that moment and watching it grow to be as big as it was really fun for me. Just watching how many clones this thing has spawned, and like a ton of clones, and I don't think any of them have done it better, but a lot of them have gone on to be bigger perfumes and get more acclaim than Tuscan leather, like
Yeah.
the one, like the Aqua de Parma, right? This has done so many different
Yeah,
clones.
there's like hundreds. It was like Aventus before Aventus, wasn't it?
Mm,
It's I've got an old bottle of this which I bought off Peter from Fragrance View. It's from the early 2010s. It's absolutely remarkable when you compare it to all the other leathers. I don't actually have this on my list, and it was one of the hardest ones to leave out because of its impact. I distinctly remember. I can see it now. I'm stood at the Tom Ford counter. I can see the girl who worked there. She was a total cow. And I was with Richie G, and they said, "Oh, smell this. This is Tuscan leather. It's one of our more popular ones." And I was like, "Oh, go on then." And I smelled it, and I was absolutely shaken to my core. I was like, "What is going on here? This is bonkers." It's like that smells so much like leather, right?
yeah,
That I was like, I've smelled stuff like this. I didn't know you could do this with a perfume.
yeah,
You know, I didn't know. This was one of those moments where and we've all had them, right? Because nobody's born understanding perfumes, where you say to yourself, I didn't know perfume could do this. You know,
absolutely.
I did not know perfume could do this type of thing. I left this out because I barely ever wear this. I revere this perfume, right? Because of the impact it's had on us. I've got a 100 ml bottle. I must have worn it twice, and I've had it for years and years. And I've got this bottle from Peter, and I haven't worn this yet. I'm probably going to wear this in sometime in the next week as well. I actually get a freshness from this. I think you could wear this in spring, right? Maybe not in the height of heat, unless you're in somewhere that is
powerful and aggressive.
And yeah, I get this.
I've picked people wearing this to the gym, or versions of this. Maybe it was La Yucawan or something, another brand, but to me it's overwhelming, and it's powerful. But this is my favorite version of all. I like this better than the ombre leather, the clones. But like you said, the very first time I smelled this had burned. It had etched like a memory. I have that moment in time etched in my mind. Like when I had smelled it, I was just shocked as well. And I was about 35 years old the first time I smelled this, and I thought, I need to be 15 years older in order to handle this. That was my thought at that moment. I felt way too young to be wearing this, way too underdressed. This isn't for sweatpants and flip-flops sort of thing, even though we do and we can. It's not the image it's trying to portray.
It's definitely the top. To me, that is the quintessential Tom Ford fragrance. That is the 2007 Casino Royale, because he did the suit for James Bond in Casino Royale. It's that fucking high-end suit, the power thing where you walk in and it's got that like kind of like American Psycho, I'm in charge, no one else matters, I look down on people, I am the master of all I survey, and I smell like that as well. And to me, that is the quintessential. I'm not saying that's what Tom Ford says his brand represents, but what I'm saying is that's how that power It's got that inner sort of projecting power
They
sort
push.
of thing.
They
Yeah,
push.
it's got that big fucking push. It's like you better get out of my way when I'm walking, or I'm going to go through you. I'm not going to push you to one side. I'm going to break you. I'm
Mm.
going to go through you, and there will be very little left of you when I am finished. You know what I mean? And I will carry on as if you weren't there. It's it's one of the great perfumes of the 21st century. It really is, and it was an absolute nightmare having to leave it out. Because
Yeah, I agree. It deserves to be in here because it's going to be historic. It was a very special release. It's a reference. This is a reference to something that has become trendy.
yeah,
That shouldn't
yeah,
take away from Tuscan leather.
no, it
I
shouldn't.
don't.
It shouldn't. No, no, you're right.
This
It's not Tuscan Leather's fault what's happened to it. It didn't ask
this
for it to be.
this is so powerful. It's one of the very few perfumes I can spray it in the morning, go to work all day, come home in the evening, have a shower, go to sleep, get up the next morning, have a shower, put on another perfume, go to work, and a few hours later have this penetrating from underneath the new perfume. The next
Yeah,
day, right? It comes alive the next day, and I can feel it like scratching and clawing its way out, trying to overcome the new fragrance of the day. It's got testosterone, it's got balls.
it really does. It really does. I am going to go and dehydrate. If you give
Yeah.
me 2 minutes, I will come back and
Es-
I will show you my number 6.
yeah. Especially these older formulas. I'm not sure what the newer stuff is, but
Give us 2 minutes.
and I'm not telling anybody to go out and find, older bottles. The things that I'm talking about are mostly about the ideas. What kind of ideas do the perfumes pitch me? What do I see? How do they make me feel more so than concentrations or modern versus vintage bottles? What's up, Adam? All right, Rich will be. Let me do a pitch since Rich is gone, guys. My perfume brand is now up and available. lesupstoday.com. La Doulette Skis, Rose Patchouli. You can find that at lesupstoday.com, lesupstoday.com, lesupstoday.com. Bellam and Iris chocolate, big chocolate, a very sweet, warm, cozy chocolate, and Descendre. These are available. A lot of people don't know that these are available. So I've been working on this perfume brand for the last couple of years, and we've just recently launched them. A lot of people have been supporting these, and they've been really great and tremendous. So thank you to everybody that has supported me and Les Ups today and the brand and the channel. So I feel very grateful and honored. Y'all have been wonderful. If you are in Europe, they should be available at La Bistro de la Butte. I'll drop all the information in the description if somebody's looking for these. B says Bellam on my hand today. I'm really surprised about that. I thought, knowing you, I thought you would have liked this Descendre the most, or at least knowing your taste.
Oh,
Says he wore Bellam last night. Incredible. Have you hydrated?
I have dehydrated and I am ready to rehydrate.
Okay,
so
so
the cycle
Leather was
continues.
the last one.
Yes, so I've done 10, 9, 8, 7. I am on to number 6.
Okay.
So my number 6. So this is one of my favorite bottles to hold in my hand. I if you had told me before this came out, and even when it came out, that I would end up loving this as much as I do, right? I would have slapped you silly. I'd have been like, you clearly had like a bang on the head because this is awful. Why would anybody release a perfume like this? And every time it was sort of like you with when you smelled and taste. The first time you smelled it, you were like, "Oh my god, what is this? Please, like, leave me alone. This is rotten." Right? I had a very similar reaction when I smelled this, and I used to laugh at the sales associate, telling her that she would never sell it. And it turns out she never would, because it's been discontinued, and it's very, very. It's already starting to increase in price. This is Gucci Guilty Absolute. This was made by none other than Alberto Marias of Date for Men fame and Acqua di Gio fame and Mise en Cere, which is a shit brand. And every once in a while, the motherfucker will just drop a perfume like this, and you're like, good God, where did that come from? You rascal. This is absolutely incredible. I love wearing this shit. It is amazing. It's so... do you know what it is? It's so impolite. And it's like the Joan Rivers of perfumes. It's like it's going to offend, right? It's going to upset, and people are going to be like, "You smell like a hospital floor," and I'm going to be like, "Yeah, I do actually." You know, I just like, in the air, this smells fucking amazing, right? This smells like something. I don't know if you had this over there. It smells like TCP. I don't know if you have TCP in Canada or in America, but it's got a very particular smell. I remember Christo describing Rien in a very similar way to this, where he said it smells like bandages with ointment, and then they've been put onto a fire, right, still wet with ointment on, and it smells like the smoke coming off that fire. You know?
Yeah. Antiseptic, ointment.
Yeah, it like there's like Jura Rosa's just said that Rien smells like dry and paint. Yeah, it's got this kind of outrageous smoke. There's absolutely zero sweetness, and there's absolutely zero like moisture in this fragrance. It is like smoke in that way, you know. It's got papyrus, it's got leather, it's got vetiver, but it came out 6 years ago now. I can't believe it's been out that long. And like I say, I made this comment to the woman selling. I was just like, you will never smell that. It's got cypress. It's just so fucking dry, and it's so honestly. Do you know what it is? Right, it's probably my favorite designer since like 2010. I can't think of another designer release in a designer line that I love more than this. I love it because it's in the Gucci Guilty line. You know what I mean? What the fuck is it doing in the Gucci Guilty line? What the fuck is it doing in the Gucci Guilty? If you've smelled any of the other Gucci Guilties, right, you will know this has no earthly right to be in the Gucci Guilty line. Yeah. It's insane. What are you doing?
Are really sweet and bubblegummy and fresh and just nothing. They're just so bland and mass appealing, aren't they? And then
I'm sure, yeah. And then you get those. It's like I'm almost sure that like Alberto Maria submitted the wrong thing to like the wrong brand for the wrong brief.
How did it get approved?
How did this happen? Like what has happened here? You know what I mean? It's bonkers.
So it seems it's a very controversial perfume here in the comments, because there's some people that seem to be supporting it and some that that aren't loving it. And I can see both sides of the spectrum on this one. This to me is a hard love, a really hard love. And I see this almost in the same way as Santal 33 or Guerlain's Queer Intense. For me, it's got a lot of synthetic components, and it's loud and it's strong and it's aggressive. And the few times that I've worn it, I've always got this overwhelming sensation. It's a big perfume, it's bold. But when I put on one spray, I can see the beauty in this. I can enjoy it. But being the oversprayer and not really knowing how to calibrate this perfume, when to wear it, I find overspraying it will kill it. And it becomes this monster that I don't love.
Yeah, it's untamable. It is literally the definition of what people say when they say a perfume will wear you. You know,
you and I talked about this before the stream, and you had called it an angry perfume.
Yeah, it's got this, like, there's some genuine resentment comes from this smell. You know what I mean? Like bitterness, and I don't mean in the smell itself. I mean like it's got an emotional kind of, like visceral, like negative energy, like. But I love it for that. You know, like I don't. It doesn't make us feel angry when I wear it. That's not what I'm saying. It smells like you're not holding your emotions in. It's like a release. It's like when you put it on. It's like when you wake up in the morning, you're like, you're not in a bad mood. Like, I'm not. Like, I don't wear this when I'm in a bad mood. That's not like the type of thing I'm saying. It's like, it's sort of, it's like it's got a strength. It's got a power. It's like a comfort. It's sort of like, it's like Tuscan leather a bit in that respect, where it's like not in the smell, but it's got this kind of, this sheer unrepentant kind of force about it. You know,
this is the cocky, arrogant bad boy with a chip on its shoulder. Yeah, the same way as Tuscan leather. This is the dude coming to pick up your daughter on a motorcycle with tattoos, with a pack of cigarettes rolled up in its sleeve, and your daughter running out of the house in anger, you know.
Yeah, you're not going out with him. Yeah, you're not allowed to go out with him, and she like runs out anyway.
Yeah. Right, and she's disobedient. She jumps off. They drive away, and you're left there with that smell of motorcycle gasoline, maybe leather from the motorcycle, exhaust,
pain.
Yeah, very aggressive. I can see that. Very dark.
I think it's utterly remarkable as like a designer release in a designer, like if this had been in a Dior Privé bottle, right, or if this had been in like the Gucci, like Alchemist's Garden. I mean, what kind of garden would produce a smell like this is beyond me. But like, if this was like 5 times the price, people, like, I wouldn't bat an eyelid. You know, I'd have bought it. I wouldn't have backed it up. But to me, this is what designer perfumes used to be. They used to be daring. They used to be different. Our brand is fucking like ahead of the trends. Our brand is smarter than the other brands. We are better than you by implication. We don't even need to tell you we're better than you. It's so obvious, you know. It's got that, for me, it's got that edge. It's got real edge, and it's got anger, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Unrepentant. Like, if people said to me, "I hate the way you smell," I'd be like, "Fuck off." Do you know what I mean? Because that's just the response. That's the response that this perfume gives. You know what I mean? And do you know what it is? It's quite linear as well, which adds to that aspect of unrepentant, like unstoppable angst and difficulty and like and anger.
Yeah, anger. It has a Fahrenheit vibe to me, not so much in in hawthorn and violet leaf and stuff like that, but that gasoline motorcycle sort of way.
Yeah,
Very butch, very masculine, very big,
absolutely.
scratchy at the same time.
Yeah,
And again, it's got that really interesting kind of Band-Aid ointment, mentholated iodine thing happening as well.
Yeah, it's got that cleanse with fire sort of thing going on. It's I think it's utterly remarkable. Like, and it's just a shame that I don't think you can buy it anymore. The prices at discounters have gone through the roof. I was paying 50 quid for 150 mil, and now you're paying 90 quid for 90 mil on discounters.
Yeah,
which is shocking. I'm just glad I've got as much as I have
because discontinuing it.
Oh no, that is not for the average consumer. It's not even close to being for the average consumer. That's a frightening perfume for somebody who just wants to smell like Baccarat Rouge,
Yeah,
because it's not for insecure human beings, that perfume.
No, it's a big, bold personality, an angry personality. It's somebody hurt. It's a hurt person almost.
Yeah, it is. There's violence, There's violence.
How art can do that. Do you ever feel like maybe it's like when I first smelled it, I was like, this is like art trying to be art, maybe trying to be too hard. Did you ever get that impression?
Is it a try hard sort of perfume? Is it trying to be different? I know that when Alessandro Michele, was that the director of? He tried to get away from the Gucci guilt, like the shit that they'd been releasing for the previous 15, 20 years. And he released a few good perfumes for them, including the Alchemist Garden and stuff like that. And he was trying to differentiate Gucci now, draw a line under the past and say this is what Gucci is now. I don't know that this actually fit in with the rest of the brand. I don't even know that it fit in for what he was trying to accomplish. Like I don't know what he was trying to accomplish. But if he wanted to make the brand stand out and he wanted to signal his intent to be different through the medium of perfume, he fucking nailed it with this.
Was this one of the ones that Jared Leto was working on, or the face of? Because I know he's done some work with Gucci, and that seems like it'd be a great fit, wouldn't it?
I fucking hope not, because he's a horrible man.
Well, with that attitude, right? He's got that bad boy attitude, doesn't he?
I mean, he's going to be convicted of some bad crimes, Like, there's bad rumors about the shit that he gets up to.
I have no idea. No,
I know what you're saying. I do know that he was doing stuff. He was doing the marketing with Lana Del Rey, wasn't he? Who is gorgeous, but the perfume for me is, who would I say would wear this? It's like a fuck you perfume.
This is like Fonzie from Happy Days. That's who I see wearing that. The leather jacket, car mechanic, bad boy, drives a motorcycle, does what he wants, goes where he wants, has complete freedom.
For me, this isn't necessarily the cool kid perfume. I think this has got angst. I think this has got like problems. It's got some issues. There's a bit of self-loathing going on there. Not necessarily confidence. Like outwardly confident, maybe inwardly not. But it's unrepentant though. It's got this big fuck you vibe.
Okay.
10,
9, 8, 7, 6. So this is my number 5, and this is a Chanel, and this is a green floral leather. I think some people might be surprised that this is in here, but they shouldn't. This is Chanel's number 19. And this
Ooh.
is citrusy, it's floral, it's green, it's musty, it's old, it's powdery. It's almost as much powdery in texture as it is perfumey. And the leather in here I get is very soft and delicate. And again, it's that reference to horse saddle leather. I get the dryness of woods. I get a little bit of a musty lily of the valley, which could give it slightly challenging vibe, but I get a lot of reference to outdoors. I get reference to very soft references, but to outdoor air, stables, flowing grass, horses, and just, the softest, most elegant saddle leather. And it's soft, it's sensual. That's what I love about it. It's an easy wear, florals, leathers, that sort of thing. And that is my number 5th pick. Just a very sensual, soft, elegant perfume that never takes over my space, and it just kind of sits very politely alongside me. Nice coating of powder, really. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's got that. It brings out the powdery aspect of the galbanum. I had a couple of older bottles of this actually,
Yeah.
which are sold to Audrey Jane, and this for me was more of an iris perfume than it was a leather. But I get the leather. I get the leather base from it. I know what you mean. It's a very green sort of leather, with a floral, Chanel, jasmine, rose, iris, heart sort of thing. Ylang ylang as well.
Bitter, a little bit bitter galbanum.
Yes, that's right. Bit of oak moss as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
The
it almost feels like they're the woman's version of Pour Monsieur, the EDT.
Yes,
right.
Without the big citrus at the top.
Yeah, very citrusy, woody, mossy. Just a classy outdoor. It's quite cold and moody and contemplative, and for me, it sits in that same region as, let's say, Bella Spiro. But Bella Spiro gets much more powdery on me than this. This has that really big, fresh citrus top to separate the powdery aspects.
Yeah, it's got hyacinth in it, hasn't it?
Possibly, I'm sure.
I think it's got hyacinth in it, if I remember correctly. I need to look
Lily
it up.
of the Valley really stands out to me. The dryness, the mustiness, kind of the white green aspects of Lily of the Valley, which can be, some Lily of the Valley can sometimes be challenging to a new nose.
Yeah, is it a green Lily of the Valley? Would you say it was green?
There's white aspects to it. There's green in the perfume, but the white lily, the Lily of the Valley, it shows up as white.
Yeah. No, I understand. It was I was glad to own it. I was very happy to own it. I had the eau de cologne from 80s maybe, and I had the eau de toilette, which I think was from the late 70s. I might be wrong.
Yeah,
very
floral. It feels like the perfect spring day scent.
Yeah, it's got that. The iris is quite prominent in it as well.
Beautiful. It wears beautifully. It's got a little bit of sweetness. It's got florals. It's green. It's mossy. It's woody. Smells like outdoors. I feel like I'm connected to the outdoors. I get that leathery vibe. I get the iris, the powders, which I love. Slightly cosmetic-y, not too much, but something that I like to wear, effortlessly. It's chic. It's effortless. It's not a challenge. It's just like a perfect companion. That's what it feels like.
No, I understand. It's the opposite of what some of these other leathers are like. It's got that wearability. It's very pleasant. It's very polite. It's very mindful.
Fosco says, I wish it was that interesting. You don't find that. I'm not sure if he's talking about 19 or if something else is going on over there, but he says it. I wish it was that interesting.
I think it's plain. I think it's very polite. I think it's very.
It is polite. It is polite, but it's the perfect. I think it's the perfect perfume. You know, it's not going to offend anybody strength wise. You're never going to get somebody on the subway to jump seats to get away from you, right? But it's interesting at the same time, and it wears beautifully.
Yeah.
And it's got just enough leather in there for me to consider it in my favorite leather perfumes.
Yeah, it's just there in the base, anchoring the rest of the perfume to come together, sort of thing, around the iris. For me, it was a big iris perfume, but like I said, my bottles were like rather old, so maybe the top and like that sort of thing had like faded.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Just like very fresh springtime sort of thing, you know, very outdoorsy. I get that very almost like an ozonic vibe to it as well, like that feeling of fresh air.
Yeah, like an aldehydic kind of thing going on. It wouldn't be surprised if there was aldehydes in it because it's a Chanel, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I absolutely love that. I mean, that's one of the signatures. Was the old aldehydes.
Okay, my good sir, that is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So your number 5.
My number five is a perfume I've actually reviewed, which should narrow it down for a lot of people. People like I've had complaints from a couple of people saying I don't review perfumes enough, and they're right, frankly, if you want the truth. This is a slightly spicy, slightly balsamic vetiver leather, and it is a niche leather, and it will always remind me of a certain time of the year, which is a mid to late October, and Eugene's off. So this reminds me of mid to late October. I like wearing this in the autumn and the early winter. And this is Lone Star Memories. For me, I mean, Lead Desert American is probably his best fragrance, but this is probably my favorite. Does that make sense? It's got the Tower Ard, you know, like the Girl in Ard, but for Andy Tower, it's got the sandalwood, it's got carrot seed, I think carrot seed, and like this labdanum leather kind of thing going on that runs through a lot of Tower's early work. This was number 3. Lead Desert American was number 2, and I mean, to knock these two perfumes out one after the other is remarkable. For me, this smells exactly like what the brief of the perfume says. This is a cowboy with oil on his hands from working on things out on the pastures, like a gun, like he's had to like work on his own gun. He's had to fix things himself. He's like a man's man. He's out camping in the woods with the smoke from the wood. So it's got like a smoky wood kind of thing, but not amber wood, not even close to amber wood. It smells like wood's burning. It smells like that burning wood has got into his clothes as well. You know, like you may have been wearing the same clothes for a couple of days. You know, he's out in the wilderness by himself, self-dependent. He has his leather jacket on. He's got his horse nearby, and you can get wafts. You can get slight wafts of a horse, but it's not like a filthy horse. He takes good care of his horse. It's clean. It's got this clean vetiver kind of vibe in it. It's dry. And again, like I said earlier about a different perfume, this has the slightest, and I do mean the slightest, amount of sweetness, maybe from the myrrh, maybe from the geranium.
Sweet jasmine.
That, yeah, it's got this like, and maybe from the jasmine or the tonka bean. It's got this. It's not. You would think if you put those three or four notes in geranium, jasmine, myrrh, and tonka, you would think that would be quite a sweet perfume. This isn't. This has just got that slightly alluring sweetness of skin, you know. It's absolutely remarkable that this was made by someone who basically taught themselves in the main. And one of the criticisms people have had from Andy Tower, or one of the things I've said about Andy Tower, is that he peaked really early. And I think this is like Lead Desert American and this are the peak of Andy Tower's like creative and technical expertise. I love wearing this. It reminds me of a very certain time in my life, and it reminds me of a computer game as well, of Red Dead Redemption 2, which is about cowboys basically, and there's big open pastures, there's an entire world for everybody to explore, and it smells like jeans with like where somebody's rubbed their hands clean on again, that kind of vibe. Not dirty at all, not animalic.
Very
in like
floral.
and not
floral component to it.
Yeah, it's got that kind of I don't want to say fresh air, but I want to say like air, you know, like open air.
Fresh musky florals.
It's got this kind of open air, sort of nature air thing going on. It's fucking glorious. I absolutely love it.
I get a massive rubberiness from this and from a lot of Tower's aesthetics. I feel like I can throw this bottle against the wall and it would bounce right back to me. You know what I mean? It's got that rubbery balsam. I think that's where a lot of the sweetness is coming from a fir balsam. But I get what you're saying about the jeans aspect. This feels more like this has that cowboy vibe to it, like a guy out by his fire late at night and in his cowboy boots, and his jeans are really close to the fire and giving off almost like a burnt accord, or maybe he had grease on the bottom of his jeans and they've gotten really close to the fire. I get something petrol-y. But yeah, I definitely see what you mean about the jeans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeans and leather cowboy boots.
Does the tonka bean give you a slight coffee vibe? I get this kind of black coffee kind of like vibe rather than an actual smell. You know what I mean? It's got this kind of
like a texture of coffee grinds, or
yeah, like thin coffee. You know, like coffee was drunk, or coffee has like coffee in the past tense. It's fantastic because it's all about those sort of inflections. It's a very inflection heavy kind of perfume, you know. It's got that kind of what's it got? It's got that kind of. It's not the smell of a cowboy. It's more the smell of the experience of the cowboy.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of like nature, natural, out there in the wild, kind of like humans against nature sort of thing. Humans trying to tame nature. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Somehow, you know, I feel like I'm surprised that it's in your top 5, but I'm not for some reason.
Yeah, it's that it's. I like to have variety,
Yeah.
and the fact
Like
that
don't get me wrong, it's an excellent perfume. It is, but
you weren't expecting to see it.
I wasn't. This is a real surprise for me. It is. It's a big surprise.
It's not one that I wear a lot. It's not one that I think is one of the great leathers of all time.
Yeah.
But as an emotional sort of link to perfume, and one that when I wear it, I enjoy it greatly, like immensely. And it's one that I don't hold back on when I wear it as well. It puts me in a certain mood, or it reflects that I'm in a certain mood.
Yeah.
I love it for that. I absolutely love it for that. And
Awesome.
that
Yeah.
is why.
And the list isn't about what you think is the best perfume, but what you associate with and what makes you feel good and what you enjoy wearing most. So
Yes. So that was my number 5.
okay. And I've got my bottle here. And mine is not on the list for no specific reason. It's not that I don't dislike
No,
it. So my what is this? Number 5? Number 4?
Number 4.
And number 4 is for me Queer Donge. And this is again, there's so many great Hermes that could have been on this list, and some were. Bellamy was on this list. Kalesh could have been on this list. Gallo, maybe for a Rose Oud, or even Violette Violinka or Volinka, right? But this is my favorite Hermes. This is what I think is one of the best representations of a leather accord and perfume. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's not number 1 because this is a little bit more of a struggle to wear than the rest of these coming forward. This was really difficult for me to align in this order. It took a long time. And you know, putting this at number 4, I don't think it's worth less than any of the others. I think it's absolutely brilliant, but because of that challenging aspect, that smoky, spicy, birchy thing, I've set it a little bit back, but I love it. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's everything I want in a leather. It's animalic. It's got growl. It feels high quality. It's expertly blended. Like when I smell it on its own, like just as one piece in its context, to me, it smells like a very luxurious handbag, a very luxurious tanned piece of leather. And I know that Jean-Claude Elena took, you know, he talked about taking 10 years creating this in his mind. He would go downstairs in the Hermes vaults and sniff around the leathers. And in doing so, he would kind of gather ideas and feelings and start creating like accords in his mind. And you can see that with time and passion and dedication, he's really captured like one of the most brilliant pieces of leather perfume to me. This is the way I feel. From all the leathers, this is really the one piece that I feel is best executed to reference the leather. Queer Donge.
Do you think that's your? Did you say you thought that was your favorite Hermes?
My favorite Hermes leather, yeah.
Okay. Did you know Eau de Hermes was a leather?
Yes, I did.
When I was drawing up this list, I checked it out, and yes, it is indeed a leather. And I was like, what? I consider that more of a lavender citrus sort of thing. It's a completely different kind of leather to Cuir d'Ange. And I actually considered putting this in. I actually considered putting Eau de Hermes in the list.
Yeah, that's another great leather from Hermes.
Yeah,
Like
it
they've
was
just
the
got so many. They're a brand that's built their heritage off of leather goods and leather perfumes.
yes, yes, absolutely. For me, Queer d'Orange is it has this whiteness to it. I always think of like a brilliant white leather. You know those leather handbags that are blindingly white. You know, they're like polished to like almost a mirror shine. Um, and they are when they're brand new and you get it out of the box and the smell fills the air, the 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 the, the reflection off the leather is extremely strong, makes your eyes like squint. That's what this smells like. This smells like leather that makes a noise when it moves, very stiff, very sort of very very rigid kind of leather, you know.
Right.
For me, it's a little bit. It's almost stuffy. The florals in this make it very difficult for me to wear those
It's
like
not the soft type of leather you find in Shalimar. This is a very rigid leather, like a rigid handbag
yeah,
that has its own shape. Like when you put the handbag down, it doesn't fall flat onto the ground. It
yes,
retains its shape. Yeah, I definitely
yes,
get that as well.
stiff. It's got
Very
that
stiff
rigidity.
leather,
Yeah.
yes, but a very high quality one.
Oh yes, like the most expensive bag they have type of
Yeah.
thing. And for me, I see that bag in white. That's what for me this smells like. This smells white. This smells white leather. You know, we were talking before about some leather smelling green or some smelling like black, or you can get like a soft brown leather. This
Mm,
is like the total opposite of that. This is rigid, stiff. This will be around in 100 years, kind of thing. Um,
yeah.
this kind of leather would hold water. You know what I mean? It's like it's that kind of thing. It smells quality. I just as a personal taste sort of thing. I'm glad I've got this little 15 mil thing, which I think these are brilliant from Hermes. You get 4 of them for like 120, 130 quid. It's brilliant. And I'm glad I've got it and I won't get rid of it because I
Right.
always want to have it to smell.
Yeah.
Um, but I would have to be feeling rather unusual for me to wear this. Like it's got this heliotrope.
Birch tar, smoky, powdery. It's
Yeah, I get.
it's one of those things that they would call like a minimalist Elena's, but it's so interesting and complex.
Yeah, I thought
And
I thought that I thought
very
that
deep.
Rose and Queer was going to go much more down this sort of path. You know, when he did Rose and Queer for Mall, I thought that was going to be much more along the lines of this. I didn't think it was going to be a leather note bolted to a rose note. You know what I mean? I thought that he was going to do some. I personally prefer this to something like that, but
I agree
I mean,
100%. I fully agree. I thought Rose and Queer was going to be something along this line. I don't think Rose and Queer is nearly as good or interesting as this.
yeah,
I
you
don't
want to
think
read it?
Violinka interests me as much as this, and that was Christine Nigel's take on Russian leather. But uh, uh, I feel like a big part of it takes from this that spicy, smoky, almost it has almost a Middle Eastern style with French flair, right? It's got
Yeah,
that that spiciness, that dryness, the woodiness in the base. But um, to me, it's like the perfect, absolute perfect piece of leather represented in perfume.
yes.
This is what
It's got a little bit of violet about it as well,
yeah,
which gives off that kind of like that kind of
powderiness without
Fahrenheit.
being
Yeah, that
feminine, without being makeupy, without being lipsticky. It's got that iris violet. Yeah, I don't necessarily get cosmetics a little bit, but it's not like super powdery and creamy. It's more dry and earthy. I've always said it felt like pulling potatoes out of the ground. You know, the dry starchiness and the dustiness of pulling russet potatoes out of the ground? That's
Yeah,
kind of the feeling and the texture it's got.
yeah, like of the earth kind of thing, without it being earthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
It's
I
got a good
understand.
growl. It's absolutely brilliant. Love it.
You do.
Absolutely, yes. Love it. I think it's one of the greats. And I
It's
love that
interesting.
it's a modern. I love that it's a modern piece of perfume and it fits like amongst the great leathers of all time. That to me is a sign, a good sign.
Whoa,
Okay. So that was 4. How did
that
I
was
start
cool.
before you? You're the
You
guest.
did.
You should be starting.
I
Have you turned this around on me, Rich?
am. I'm very, very sneakily ducked you. I ducked under.
All right, what do you got for us next? What is on the duck's platter?
The duck platter. Number 4 is a reference leather. It is a famous leather, and it was always going to pop up at some point. And I have my vintage bottle here. I also have a 200ml bottle, which is not shown but is lurking somewhere below me. This one will have to do. It's one of the great fragrances of all time. And this is Fahrenheit by Dior, the second Dior on this list. This perfume has been referenced many times, and I would actually include Cuir d'Ange in that. I think Cuir d'Ange smells a bit like Fahrenheit. I think that the violet and the leather.
Violet hawthorn. They've both got that spicy hawthorn.
Yeah, they've got that. Yeah, they've got that floral leather, kind of, because Fahrenheit's a massive floral in the mid. You know, it's got that. It's got that carnation as well. There's stuff like chamomile at the top, which it's got this smooth kind of. Do you know how petroleum products, they're all based on oil, you know, and this does have that petroleum aspect. It's one of the most famous parts about it. But oil is like it's like a lubricant, and it's very smooth and it's very viscous, and it's got this kind of like Fahrenheit's got this viscosity to it, this texture of like if you've got it on your hands don't feel like they're like, and you try to rub your fingers together, like you can't get a good grip. You know what I mean? It's got this viscosity. It's got this wet, like it's wetter than water. You know, it's smooth. It's, and you have to, if you want to get it off yourself, you have to rub it on on a rough textured surface, like jeans. Like we've said this many times, like in our list so far. It's got this hands rubbed on jeans aspect. It's the mechanic. It's the person who works with the hands, and the hands getting not gnarly, but like they've been affected by the fact that they've been dealing with these oily petroleum products for years. You know, they're a bit dry because there's a dryness to this as well from like the nutmeg and the cedar and the leather. It's got nutmeg in it twice, nutmeg flower and nutmeg. It's a huge floral perfume, and it's very interesting that you chose Cuir d'Ange just before this, because I do see I see Cuir d'Ange, sorry, Cuir d'Ange, yes. Cuir d'Ange references Fahrenheit massively with the fact that it's a huge floral leather. You know,
it is a huge floral leather. The biggest difference to me is Queer d'Ange is much more Birkin bag, luxury handbag. This to me is leather jacket and motorcycle vibe again.
Yes, yes,
It,
it's definitely much more like blue collar, as the Americans say. It's got that
uniform,
kind
car
of
mechanic. It's got a huge green component that it kind of gets lost. To me, it almost feels like grass, gasoline spilt on grass and then set on fire. It's got a resinous aspect to it, almost like the
yes,
feeling. You know how castoreum has that resinous effect? I'm not sure if there's ever been castoreum in here, but it has that kind of screechy, not in a horrible way, but resinous thing going on. Like the
yeah,
same way when you pump gas at the gas station and you get that hit of
yes,
gas in the wind. It's
and,
very resinous. You know what I mean? There's a big
yeah,
separation between the notes.
almost like a gooey kind of aspect, like a not like amber, but like a running, like a flowing kind of aspect. It's got this. It's like I say, it's got this lubricant kind of aspect to it.
Mhm.
Like you say, like oil, or petroleum, or something you would treat an engine with, like mechanical kind of thing. But it's got this beautiful side to it. It's got this beauty to it, which is like it's a young mechanic kind of
Yeah,
thing, like someone in the mid-20s, that early to mid-20s, and it's got that flourish of youth to it. But
you
it's
know, it
like
also has a huge fresh citrus accord to contrast all those darker, dirtier elements.
it's a fougere. It's got lavender. It's got bergamot. It's got lemon. It's got patchouli. It's got carnation. It's a fougere. It's just an extremely complicated, like different fougere. It's a bit like Smalt au Poiron came out, I think, the year after this. Oh no, the year before this. And it's got that kind of smoky, like fire association. That does it smell smoky?
There's
No,
smoke,
but
but I wouldn't call it smoky like Bellamy.
no, no, it's not smoky, but it's got this kind of association with fire. It's like pre-fire. You
Mm,
know what I mean?
yeah,
It's got this kind of like it's not a fizziness, but it gives you like a twang in your nose, you know. But it's so smooth, and it's got a flow that's
yeah.
the
Very
leather. The
masculine
leather,
florals.
yeah, the leather is kind of like, I don't want to say it's like a bystander, because it's not. It's more like a scaffold. It's more like it keeps everything from getting out of hand. Like it's controlled fire. It smells like it smells like small fire, like controlled, like internal combustion. It's just a series of explosions, but they're controlled explosions, and they are directed explosions. It's got this kind of explosive aspect to it. And
Yeah.
I think it is genuinely one of the best perfumes ever made. It's certainly one of the best men's perfumes ever made.
I've got a story about this I've told many years ago, but I'm going to tell it again because it's a good one. And I used to work with this Eastern European man that was maybe 10 years older than me, 15, wasn't into fragrance, didn't have a big collection. He owned one perfume and he wore it every single day to work for years. And every day I thought, man, this guy smells fucking amazing. But I didn't want to ask him what he was wearing because I was coming to work every day wearing $300, $400, $500 bottles of perfume. And if he had told me he was wearing like Curve or something, I would have ended my life, because he smelled so damn good. I was like, what the fuck can he be wearing? There's no way this guy's into niche. There's no way this guy's into expensive perfume, but he smells damn good. Like, he oftentimes smelled better than what I was wearing. And then just one day after years, I was like, dude, what the fuck are you wearing? And he says, Fahrenheit. And I was like, what? It didn't make any sense to me because I never got Fahrenheit from it. And I spent like so much time trying to figure. And I was like, can you please bring me your bottle because my Fahrenheit doesn't. I know what Fahrenheit. And he brings me. This was a vintage bottle of Fahrenheit. It was before I had my vintage. I was like, oh damn, that makes sense. That makes sense. And
It's had a couple of horrible reformulations, especially I think the first reformulation where they vanillaized it, and they just whoever did it ought to be fucking ashamed of themselves. I mean, it was just the poured vanilla into it and took out all that viscosity, all that kind of like that seeping through your fingers, untamable, like that untamable aspect that the original Fahrenheit had. And then Demaché did a reformulation where he took it much further back to the original, but it still wasn't the same, you know. And it wasn't reformulated. I mean, it wasn't reformulated for like the first 10, 12 years it was out. I think the first reformulation came in like the early 2000s, you know. This reminds me of women, you know, certain women that I've known who absolutely loved it. This was a signature scent for me for a while when I was like in my early 20s.
A divisive perfume. I can't imagine everybody loving this because again, it's very different than what's out there. It's bold, almost like polo green in a way, very unique, right? When I go into the department stores right now today, this would stand out with something like polo green, and not much else has stood the test of time since like this era, this generation.
Yeah. There's I mean,
like
for the
it's
amount of
pretty much
perfume,
the only things that the classic brands carry that's still relatively good.
yeah.
You're not looking for bubblegummy things and sweet and cotton candy.
Yeah. 99% of perfumes get discontinued, you know. It's like that. It's like that thing about evolution. 99.9% of species that have ever existed have died out. You know, there are like today there are only like 0.01% of like species that have ever lived that are still alive today. So that's kind of the same thing with perfumes, really. Most perfumes get discontinued. This is one that has stood the test of time. You know, it's coming up to 40 years. Well, I mean, 35 years, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's got that bad boy reputation we were talking about earlier in Gucci Guilty Absolute.
Yeah. I think Gucci Guilty Absolute references this Fahrenheit as well.
It smells completely different, has some of the same feeling, textures.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it grabs from that gasoline, motorcycle, leather idea.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brilliant. That was my number 4.
Okay. Do you want to do 3 or should I go 3?
Either or. I'll do number 3 if you want.
Sure.
Okay, so my number 3. My number 3 is a niche perfume, and for me, this is one of the best smelling perfumes I own. It smells extremely grown up. It smells class. It's one of those perfumes that makes you act differently when you wear it. You've got to dress it up. You can't just wear this with like tracksuit bottoms on, and I'm throwing the lid on the floor for some reason. It's a certain type of leather, but I almost want to say it's like a pure leather, you know. It's not pure leather by Mugler, don't worry.
I'm starting to
It
get worried.
is, yeah. It is one of the fragrances that I always think is like, if I was to pick the top 10 best smelling perfumes, not necessarily my favorites, but the best smelling perfumes I own, this would be in the top 5. And this is Queer by Mona Diorio. It is simply amazing. It was perfumed by Mona Diorio herself before she passed away, untimely death in her 40s, I believe. She died about 10 years ago. All the perfumes that she made herself are brilliant. I think that they've kept to the aesthetic of the brand since she died, but I don't necessarily think the perfumes are as good. It's got this outrageous smoke note in it, which is like probably the best smoke note I've smelled in a perfume. It's certainly the best incorporated into the perfume. It's got this greenness from cardamom and a juniper note, which is like a dry juniper, you know. It's got this, it evokes gin without any of the alcohol whatsoever. It evokes that dry, white kind of vibe. If I was to say it was a color leather, it would be a black leather. But it's got this clean black leather kind of vibe. You know, it's like a freshly cleaned or a freshly made black leather jacket. The smoke, like I say in this, the smoke note is one of the best smoke notes, if not the best smoke note I've ever smelled in a perfume. It's absolutely incredible. I wear this when I want to impress, you know, like if you want to smell grown up and you want to smell better than you actually are. And you want to, you know, when you dress yourself up and you want to put your best, you put your best foot forward, or you want to leave an impression on someone. For me, this is a grown-up fragrance. It is not for boys. It is not for little girls. It's not for people who haven't been around. I'm trying to think of other ways of putting it, but you have to be experienced to wear this. You have to know things about life to wear this perfume. It's got a huge castoreum note in it. It's got like a, what has it got? It's got this slightly resinous kind of vibe as well, and a little bit incensey. It's like the smoke from the incense is a little bit dry, not sweet at all, but it's got this slightly, not goopy, what's the word I'm looking for? It's got a castoreum note, so it's got that beaver about it, you know. It's got a ever so slightly animalic, but like human animalic, you know. It doesn't smell like a dirty animal that you found rotting in the wild. It's utterly beautiful in a very serious way. You know, it's like, to me, this smells a bit like Monica Bellucci. I don't know if you know who she is. Like, oh my God, she's stunning, and she still is, right? She's in her 50s, right? She is fucking glorious. And this smell, like, she could wear this, you know, because it's very serious and it's dark, and but it's still sort of, it can deal with life, you know. Like, nothing's going to overwhelm this perfume, but also this perfume won't overwhelm you. It's absolutely incredible. I love it. And the fact that there are 2 perfumes ahead of it, I could have easily had this number 1 and been able to justify it and sleep well tonight.
when you
But
get to this point, it gets really difficult to decide where you're going to put things and why you position them there. But we have our reasons. But I've smelt this once, and I have a sample of it, and I've never worn it. I remember Christo gave me a sample, and the only thing I can remember of it is smoke, smoke, and smoke.
yep,
And that
it's
was basically like with the very few minutes that I had to spend with it, I just remember it being plumes and plumes of darkness and smoke.
yeah, it's got this smoke, and it is smoky. It's a very smoky castoreum. It's a smoky castoreum, leather, cardamom sort of thing going on. Monica Bellucci's beaver is not dirty. I imagine it is pristine. it's got this little bit of anise at the top, which gives it this cardamom and anise. Give it like an exotic kind of thing. That's another word you would describe like Monica Bellucci as being like exotic. You know what I mean? Like it's got this darkness, like brown hair and brown eyes.
Are you saying it's a classy wear?
Oh, it's an utterly classy wear, and it unfolds slowly and not a lot. You know, it's not a huge amount of like transitions and changes between the top, the middle, and the bottom, but there is a little bit. And as it settles and as it rests, it doesn't what Galen always takes the piss out of for saying that it falls apart in the base. This is the opposite of that. It gets better as it dries down, as a good perfume should. The quality of the blending and the texture and everything about it comes together to just make it beautiful. I will tell you a story. I tried to buy a vintage bottle of this off a guy from Canada about 3 weeks ago, and he had one, and it was open. It wasn't full, right? A vintage bottle in the old square presentation, right? Excuse me whilst I hydrate. And I got in touch with him, and he wouldn't tell us the prices, and And I said, look, these are the ones I want. Like, tell me what you want. And for an opened bottle of this perfume, he wanted $1,600.
That's deep. That's
I laughed in his face. You know what I mean? I was like, your prices are fucking outrageous. Like, and I mean that like that's criminal. Like, you can't possibly expect anybody to pay £1,600 for a vintage bottle of this. The reformulation is sensational. You know, like it might not be quite as like and quite as committed. No, that's the wrong word because it's utterly committed. It might not be quite as unwearable. It might not be as like fucking zealous. That's probably the word I'm looking for, as the original formulation. But that probably works in its favour. Because it makes it more wearable, and the performance on this is fucking massive. It's like a nuclear winter. It's like it will last for like hundreds of years. Like if you get this on clothes, you're stuck with it for weeks. Doesn't matter how many times you wash your clothes. You know, you're stuck with this on a jumper. Like you will smell of this for a long time. And that's another thing I love about it. Actually, if you want the truth, the performance. But yes. This was my number 3, Monodiorio's Queer.
All right. So I'm on number 3. Great. I'd love to try it. I'd love to wear that one day. And I've been saying for years, I just need to find my sample. And I'll take it out for a ride to see what you are gloating about.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, number 3. I don't think any of these are going to be a surprise, but and it's probably quite predictable for the people that have been watching for a long time. But number 3, Leather Oud. And I know you had discounted this earlier when you said Queer Canage, which is fine. Both fantastic leathers, but this to me it's dirty, it's bold, it's unapologetic. I love smelling it on myself. I hate smelling it on other people. I've smelt this on somebody else and I thought, my God, what is that? Horror. Horror. Get away from me. And he sprayed it from my bottle. I sent him to he's like, you smell great. Can I try some of that? I said, yeah, I got a bottle in my locker at work. The guy went and he sprayed some and he walked by. I was like, oh, I did not enjoy that at all, but it's a dirty perfume. It's got dirt and filth coming from several places. Leather, oud. It's a very soft oud, smoked woods, very balmy, sweet, very buttery. The leather, I get like different varieties of leather. It's very, again, we're going back to the cowboy theme. It's very outdoorsy. It's very camphorous and smoky, maybe suede-y. I get saddle leather from this. I get cowboy leather. I get leather chaps, almost the same. It doesn't smell anything like the Andy Tower Lonesome Rider, but I get that same sort of visual. Leather chaps out by a bonfire, smoky bonfire. Maybe somebody had gotten drunk and there's that big civet in here, that buttery civet. Butter and civet play so amazing in this kind of honeyed buttery civet. There might actually be beeswax. Is beeswax a listed note in here?
Yes. Yeah, there is. It's sweet. It's got a lovely sweetness to it.
It's got that
incredible
beeswax, that animalic beeswax working with the patchouli and the warmth of the civet and honey. And it smells almost like, a cowboy in chaps has pissed himself next to the bonfire, and overnight, the heat of the fire, the heat of the burning wood had kind of dried up that pissiness that the jeans have soaked up, right? So it's got a lot of filthiness. It's got dirt. It's spicy. Has this fantastic clove note, for spice. Very similar to Oud Isfahan. If you've tried Oud Isfahan, it shares a lot of similarities to Oud Isfahan.
Yeah, it's got the same oud.
Yeah, same oud, the same patchouli, musky, civety base to kind of structure it all. Leather oud, Oud Isfahan isn't leathery like this. This is very buttery too. So it's got different versions of leather. Like I get that saddle leather, that horsey leather. I get leather chaps, but I also get like this very buttery leather. I get a butter accord, I get a leather accord, and it's almost like warming up butter the same way you would when you're gonna fry eggs, but instead you put in that pot this luxurious piece of leather, and it gets really warm and just creates something with your own skin that creates this beautiful effect, beautiful accord. Very masculine, very rough, and just that sort of thing. Very cowboyish. I get it cowboyish the same way as like Lonesome Rider comes to mind. Even Santal 33, how it has that cowboyish effect. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For me, I think, right, this is one of those perfumes that it's so outrageously dark and leathery and civety and birchy that you could wear this in the high heat. I think this one spray of this would work in the high heat because it's got that resinous beeswax sort of thing which comes out when you get hot. When I remember when I got this, I gave some to a friend of mine. She put a spray on her skin, and when she sprayed it on her skin, she's quite dark, she's like dark hair, dark eyes, dark skin. And when she sprayed it on her skin, the first thing she said was, "Ooh, sweet," right? And I was like, "What are you talking about? That's an insane thing to say. Like, you clearly don't know what you're talking about." give it here. And I smelled her hand and I was like, oh, fucking hell, sweet. And the beeswax note had just bloomed hugely on her. And I was like, how is that possible? How is that happening? And it did darken down and it softened out, became a lot more woody. So the oud and the sandalwood and the cedar sort of came out a bit more on her. But for me, the first, I'll never forget the first. This is again another harking back to the story about Tuscan leather, where we were when we first smelled that. I remember the first time I smelled this, I was sitting down at the Dior boutique in Phoenix, and I was just discovering this line for the first time when I was just 12, and she gave me leather oud to smell, and I was fucking shaken to my very core. I was like, what the fuck is this? And who the fuck wants to wear this? Right? I was like, that is awful. I was like, that smells like a working men's club, like a grotty working men's club toilet. Right? It smells like it's got a shit aspect to it. It's got urinal cake aspect to it. It's got like a sullied cleanness, like something that was clean, no longer. You know what I mean? Like it's got this dirtiness. It's got this power. And I smelled it once, but I didn't realize, but it had planted the seed, obviously. You know what I mean? I was taken straight to a working men's club toilet, which I have fucking drank, like being in working men's clubs before and gone to the toilet. I even got the feelings, you know, when you're drunk and you go into the toilet and you fucking like you've been talking and you've been like with everybody, and then you get like a moment to yourself when you're pissed in the toilet and you're standing there taking a piss and you're like, fucking hell, I'm pissed. You know what I mean? I was taken back to that moment when I was like, fucking hell, I'm pissed. Yeah, what the fuck? Do you know what I mean? You got like that moment to yourself. It sort of has that, it cocoons you in its fragrance because it's so big, because it's so overwhelming if you let it. It's if you spray too much for this, it won't just wear you, it'll consume you. You know? Yeah. It will leave, it will be negative. It will be a negative experience if you put too much of this on. And it's one of those, the reformulation was fucking shameful. It was utterly shameful. And it's one of those ones, and I know there are people out there who make the argument, like, not all reformulations are as bad, and they're right. Some reformulations are fucking brilliant, right? But you have to bear in mind, this is Francois Demachet working on his own work, right? And he booked the trend of perfumers who reformulate their own perfumes doing a good job. He fucked it with this wet sand note, and he took out the beeswax, and what it smelled like was fucking Nolan Banal and dry woody ambers with this rotten, wet, fucking stony kind of accord, right? And it took out all that complexity, and he blatantly just did it to make it cheaper, right? There was no reason to change that fucking perfume. If it was doing badly, right, just discontinue it. And they eventually have. It is apparently discontinued. It's only available from Paris now, apparently.
Which is a crying shame, because they've taken this out of production and they've put oud rosewood in the production.
Oud rosewood, yeah.
Kind of a take on this. It's a much softer, scratchier version, which isn't nearly as interesting or dramatic as this one. But yeah, I love this. And Osh Fox saying he's not impressed with the oud. No, I don't necessarily wear this for the oud. To me, it's just like smoked wood chips, which is good. I love the leather aspect of this. This is the type of theme I love in leather perfumes. And as dirty and as skanky and barnyardy as this is, I love it. I wear it often. It's during the season, in that rotation season, I'll reach for this quite often. I do love wearing it. I remember the first time I had smelt it, my friend Andrew had sent me a sample very generously. and it absolutely blew me away. Like driving home, just the warmth inside of the car started to warm up, leather oud on my skin, and I started to get like this visceral reaction where I was almost going to vomit. It smelled like
Yeah.
pasture inside my car, like manure, like
I would not like to be in a confined space with a few sprays of this on, especially not when you've just sprayed it on as well, like in a car or in a small room or in a hallway or something where you can't get out. Like I would have all the windows open. Like you've got to let this settle for at least half an hour before you get into a car with it on, because
yeah.
What'll happen is it'll start to build up, in the air, and you literally won't be able to turn away from it. Yeah. Frightening. It's a consuming perfume. It will literally envelop you, and you will be in a bad way.
There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of animalic, dirty facets. It's interesting. It's a beautiful wear. It's bold. It's loud. It's just balls. It's amazing. I love it, and that's why I have it at number 3.
At number 3, I've done my number 3, so we are going to be moving on to number 2. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first? I'm not bothered.
However you like. I can go next.
I shall go next, by God.
Sure.
I shall go next. I'm just going to give this a rub down because it is shiny. The next one, I had to check whether it had a leather note in it or not. And it does. And this is one of the greatest perfumes I think ever made. And it's certainly one of the greatest male perfumes ever made. I will wait for Eugene's return before I unveil it, or shall I? Shall I unveil it while he's not looking? It's. I was literally, as we've been going through this video, trying to decide whether I should put this at number 1 or not. But no, I won't. My number 2 is Antaeus by Chanel. You will notice that this is the modern bottle. This is a 2017 bottle. Another one, when I remember where I was when I first smelled this. I think Eugene's got the same, like a similar experience for it. I'm not going to speak for him, but this is based on the Greek god, demigod, who was required for his powers to stay attached to the earth with his feet on the ground. And this is how it smells. This smells like man. This smells like Chanel for men. Monsieur, I know, was the perfume that Chanel thought men should smell like. For me, this is a trend-setting perfume. It wasn't as successful as Koros, which isn't on my list. It wasn't as big as like in like pop culture and stuff, for better or for worse. But I think it's a better perfume than Koros, and I actually prefer this to Koros, even the vintage Koros. It is incredibly intricate. It is incredibly densely packed, and what happens when you spray it, as you go about your day, it unfurls, it unwinds, it doesn't break down, that's the wrong word, but it parts come and parts go, It starts off with this smooth sort of smell. It starts off with this almost resinous kind of vibe, with like a little bit of spice and a little bit of warmth at the top. And then about a few minutes in, you get a blast of everything that then disappears again. And you're left with a little bit of citrus. I actually get some creamy lime from this. And then you get the Chanel Mid, the Chanel Heart, which is like rose and jasmine, and they haven't put in ylang ylang in this, which stops it from being feminine. The jasmine and the rose heart in this provide this kind of sensuality, this kind of like human aspect to the perfume. And then in the base you get the leather, which you always sense that it's there. You always sense that it's there, but it doesn't become the prominent note until about 3-4 hours in, and then it dominates for the rest of the perfume, and it's there, and you're aware that it's there, but it never ever oversteps the line. It walks the line perfectly. It's Jacques Polge at his very best. I think this is probably Jacques Polge's crown and achievement for Chanel, which is a big statement to make considering some of the other perfumes he's made. But I'm not huge into the feminine targeted fragrances. For me, this is his top work. It's like a female fragrance for men. You know, he's taken the best aspects of how to make a female perfume and applied it to make a perfume for men. You know, he's put oak moss, patchouli, labdanum, castoreum, leather in the base, and it's what happens leading up to that base that sets off this like sort of like low tone, long sort of whale song, fucking like dry down. It's very powerful, but it's beautiful, right? It's like you feel like you've got hair on your chest. You feel like you've got a beard, you know, but it's well kept, you know. It's also like you've looked after it. You're masculine, but there's a softer edge which is brought in by that resin at the beginning and the floral heart, which sets it up for this deep. At the end of the day, you've got this. You are a man, you know. It is one of the most archetypical masculine perfumes for me that I can think about, and it does things that almost all these other perfumes don't and can't do. I absolutely love it. And like I said, I don't know if you heard, Eugene, but when you went out, I was thinking during the making of this video, right, whether I should swap number 1 and number 2, right? Because I could have had this at number 1 and not thought, like, the top 3, right, really are like my top 3 leather perfumes. Like I've got the list of all the other ones. I mean, I could go through, when we're finished, I could go through the list of the perfumes I've left out, and you will see just how good these perfumes are, and especially these top 3 to have made it to this point where I've been able to discard the other ones. You know, for me, this is top perfume. I don't know if I revere it more because it was a fragrance released in the 80s. For me, this set the tone for those 80s leathers, you know, like Bellamy, like the re-released Cuir de Russie, like Smolto, like Fahrenheit, you know. It for me, this set the tone for those sorts of perfumes. It set the foundation for these, and it really does feel foundational. It feels so solid. It feels like a man you can rely on. If you've got a problem, go and see this man. He will sort it. No matter how big your problem is, he has power, and he will be able to sort it. You know,
Yeah,
and it's got this kind of strength, but like surety and reliability about it. You know,
I've always thought that this pays homage to Piguet's Bandit. Do you get that at all? The smokiness of Bandy?
Yes, but I would say this is superior to Bandy.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
would
would say
agree.
this is
I would agree with it too. This is not an easy perfume to break down or describe. There's a
no.
lot going on here. It's very complex. It's very intricate, and as big and bold as it is, there's a nice gentle softness to it, uh, like
Yes.
a femininity that we talk about without being what I got to be careful with my words here. Kind of this, the soft foofy type of perfumes that they're marketing out there today, right? It
Yeah.
has that element of powderiness, of waxiness, um, but it's also got this really dry bitter greenness in the opening, mixed with that resinous animalic castoreum.
Yeah. It's got this kind of it's
But
got
doesn't
this
it
kind
stop
of
there?
like
There's like also that animalic beeswax. I'm not picking up so much right now, but I know there were times where that beeswax was much stronger than me on me.
there's a there's a there's a there's a there's a very subtle sweetness from it that you'll get from like the myrrh and the rose and like the labdanum and maybe even the patchouli. The patchouli's more earthy for me though. There's like all the base notes really do remind me of like earth, like terra firma, like sea level kind of like thing. You know what I mean? Like you're at like you're at the you're at sea level. You are where the ground is most firm under your feet. It's got this reliability to it. It's got this kind of um, it's got this, what the fuck is the word I'm looking for? It's got this kind of um, like reliability. What's the word I'm looking for?
It's
It,
responsible. It's a very strong perfume. It's strong on
yeah,
its feet. It's trusting.
it's yeah. You can trust this.
Period.
You can
It's
count
done.
on it. Yeah, it smells like dad. Do you know what I mean? It smells like a man who's going to look after you
Yeah.
as a man. Do you know what I mean? It smells like a man who's going to look after you as a man. Like when you're a little boy and you fall over and stuff, and you run the house and you're like, "Dad, help! I've like cut myself. What the fuck?" And your dad's like, "Well, it's going to be all right. You're going to be okay. I'll protect you." Like, or if like you're being bullied and like you're like, "My dad's harder than your dad," kind of thing. It's got that to it, and it is truly one of the best leathers. It's one of the best fragrances. Um, it's one of the best fragrances I think released ever.
Ever.
Certainly
Yeah.
certainly in the second half of the 20th century, and certainly of the 1980s as well.
I
And
would
that is
agree.
my
One of the
that
greatest
was
ever. And it's
that was
for
my
me,
number two.
it was a really strange relationship I had with this when I discovered it. I hated it, but I was addicted to hating it, and
Yeah,
in all those moments of hating it, hate turned to love, just by experiencing it and spending time with it. I was like, this is so amazing. So
yes,
it's really funny to see how something goes from like I was really disgusted with it, and it was just like I didn't understand it, and I couldn't make any sense of it, and it was just like this is really raw, and it was a lot, it was a lot, and
yeah,
it smelled strange, and I don't know, but after just hitting it all the time, I was like, this is really cool. Like I can see the appeal to this. This is like drinking coffee for the first time. Let's say black coffee. Nobody's gonna like black coffee or to inhale a cigarette for the first time. It's absolutely vile and disgusting, right? But
yeah.
it's an acquired taste in that way.
No, I totally agree. Give me 2 seconds before you move on to your number two because
Take
I
your
need
time.
to dehydrate. Give us a couple of minutes.
Take your time. Be sure to like the stream while you're here. If you're liking the stream, like the stream. If you are enjoying the stream, like the stream. If you are enjoying the stream, Go subscribe to Rich Mitch's channel, which I have just posted in the comments. Show Rich your support. Rich is dropping videos several times a week. He is live streaming and talking about vintage perfumes, modern perfumes, doing testing sample packs, doing reviews, doing fragrances of the week, sharing his personal opinion, his taste on fragrance. Is a great channel. Go check him out. Yes. Drop the lemons. You're going to wait, Dev, a long time for that. All right. But guys, we're coming down to the top two. This is it. Rich, was that Rich's second? Yeah, that was Rich's second, I believe. Let us know, like, as we're running these out, let us know your top 10. Let us know your top 10 leather perfumes in the comments. Let us know what you want us to try. What is a hidden gem? Out of all these, I think my hidden gem is probably the one that gets talked about the least. Is probably Bottega Veneta for women. This one here. And I imagine it's quite affordable too for designer perfume. But let us know if you have any hidden gems, anything strange, anything interesting. Yeah. If you like fragrance streams, like the stream. Is Modern Antaeus worth getting? I think so. Depends on, do you want to search? I am not a guy that's going to go on eBay and search. I don't mind buying modern stuff, but somebody's going to tell you to buy vintage Antaeus. Somebody's going to say that the modern is okay. I'm okay with the modern. Just like I am okay with the modern Egoist, I think it's still excellent. Of course, if you can get older versions, they're going to be richer and deeper and also heavier, more outdated. What they've done is just really just modernize them, make them a little bit easier to wear. Antaeus isn't the easiest thing to wear. Paula says that Bottega is fleeting. Not for me. I don't have a problem wearing it, and I can smell it all day long. Modern is great. Yeah. Just try for yourself. I personally wouldn't have a problem buying modern. Flavasauce says, I'm still struggling with Antaeus. Sometimes I find it lovely. Others, it's gross and oppressive. Maybe try spraying less and farther away. You might be overdoing it. And that's sometimes how I feel with Gucci Guilty Absolute. Like it's drowning me. Like I feel like I'm suffocating if I put on too much sprays of Gucci Guilty Absolute. Like I'm suffocating it. I can't breathe. Yes, leather. I love it. I was thinking of putting it, Bella Speedo in there. It's very soft though, but Bella Speedo you can put in, you know, you can tie that in with number 19. They really do a lot of similar things.
Okay, I have returned.
Did you go for lemons?
No, I didn't actually. I had a something called malt loaf, which I love. We
are down to our last two. You have done your second favorite leather perfume. I've not done mine yet. We're almost on 3 hours, which is cool. I mean, we've got all the time in the world to talk about perfumes, so we're slowly getting there. We're slowly getting there. If you're enjoying the stream, lick the stream, stick around, and I'll do my number 2.
Okay.
And this probably won't be seen as a leather perfume. I can see why, but to me, it is very much a leather perfume. This is Guerlain's Mitsuko, which has a very beautiful, soft saddle leather in the base of this. And I really, there's many from Guerlain that could have fit this like leathery aspect. But none of them are really considered leather perfumes, leathery genres. Like there's a big leather in Shalimar, there's leather in L'Heure Bleu, there's leather in Habit Rouge, but this is the one that really sticks out to me because I love this theme of leather, this saddle horsey leather. This is very much a barnyard leather, and it has barnyard aspects, but it doesn't scream barnyard the way that leather oud is. I almost see leather oud, like I see parts of leather oud coming from Mitsuko, not the green grassy mossiness, but a lot of that horsiness, a lot of that saddleness. So with Mitsuko, this is regarded as that peach chypre, or yeah, like the first of its kind, but I do get, obviously there's a peach in there, a juicy peach, but deep down in the dry down, this feels very timeless to me. The whole perfume feels timeless, and I feel like it is a moment in time that can live forever. It is outdoors. It is dark. It is mysterious. I get elements of woods, dry woods, maybe even cabin, horses, hoof,
Hoof.
dirt kind of stuck inside of the hoof. It's not overwhelmingly dirty, but I get that great sense of horsey leather, saddle leather in the dry down, and I love it. You can tell, this is our favorite leathers, which we wear the most or feel more, and you can see by, the dented bottle. And
Yes.
this is one of my favorite perfumes ever, and one of my favorite leather perfumes.
Which version? Which version is that? Is it the EDT or the EDP or the pure perfume?
This is the eau de parfum.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's mossy, it's citrusy. There's a freshness to it. There's spices. I get a big cinnamon, kind of like that allspice thing going on. Cinnamon, nutmeg, pepper, clove. It almost sounds Christmassy. I don't necessarily get Christmas, but it's spicy, it's mossy, it's leathery, it's contemplative, it's outdoorsy, and it's just absolute gem of a fragrance. I love wearing it. You got that sweetness from that peach, and absolutely beautiful, timeless, classic. Mitsuko.
It is an absolute classic. Like, there is no denying that. I've got a vintage eau de toilette, which I haven't worn because I don't know when to wear it. It's a beautiful perfume, and I love the fact that I've got it for reference, and it's not something I would sell. I was sent a bottle by Anoush, and I've got it. Is it? No, it's not in there. I've got it right here. There it is. And it's in a generic bottle. The sprayers on these are incredible, by the way. They're like 10 times the 10 times the sprayer of most perfume bottles I've got. But it is stunning. It's got that peachy kind of, just huge sprays. It's got that peachy floral Guerlain quality class to it. It's one of those perfumes that can't be denied. I've heard tell before of perfumes. It might have been you that told me this, actually, that perfumers say this is probably one of the best balanced perfumes ever made. The Mitsuko, that it's one of the best perfumes ever made, simply because of just how perfectly it technically, in a technical sense, and it's It's stunning. I can smell it in the air now. It's got this almost like, it's got this almost sort of like not burnt aspect to it, but like a warmth that comes from like a not a heat, but a warmth. You know, it's not hot. It's warm and it's cozy and it's comforting. It's got this.
It's got soul.
Yes.
It's got an old world soul to it. It smells like cash money, like old American dollar bills.
Yeah. Like it's got a hand. It's got like a hands kind of vibe to it. You know, like where you get like, you know, like your hands get like oil on them, like human oil. You know, and it gives it this kind of like sheen or this texture. This like it seeps into the money. You know, when like cash out. You know, when you get like old banknotes and like you can tell they've got like many hands have been on them over the years. Right. You know, especially in the corners and stuff. It's got that sort of thing.
It smells like stacks of cash from generations ago. Beautiful floral accord. I can't really quite make out all the florals in there, but you know, jasmine. There's like this moody violet in here. There's a moodiness like a lot of the great Guerlains of the past are known for. Like Letter Blue is very moody. I find that same sort of moody contemplation here. Just
it's like a lilac. It's like a lilac more than like a violet. It's got that kind of. It's got that kind of like not creaminess, but you know what I mean, like softer, it's like softness. You know.
Yeah. To me, I find myself like staring out into space and thinking, and this is the feeling that Mitsuko would capture.
Yeah.
Contemplating, thinking, being alone, being with yourself, timeless, being outdoors.
Yearning. It's got a yearning to it because that's what it was. That was like how it was designed, wasn't it? To be like a sad, like it's like a sad, like a love story with a sad ending.
Yeah, it was a love story. It was an affair during the war. The Mitsuko, which means mystery, had sent two of her lovers off to war. Her husband, which was a Japanese soldier, and I don't know if it was German or Russian, or she sent another lover, and she was just waiting for them to come back. And in that time, in the 2 years, she was, I guess, contemplating, you know, meeting her demise. So it does have that sense of mystery to it, that darkness. You know, the leather is on the darker side. Even though it's soft, it's a soft leather, and it doesn't ever overtake the perfume, right? It's built into the perfume.
Absolutely. That's the thing with Guerlain, isn't it? It's the blending, the technical aspect. They're unparalleled, you know?
Yeah.
They're unparalleled for that, even by like Chanel and the old sort of like Rude Knitskills. They've got this there's this consistency. You can tell that's been passed down from one Guerlain to another Guerlain. They've told them the family secrets, and like you say, it's like in that respect, it is like old world money because it's been inherited throughout the years, you know, and it's got that kind of
that
timeless
feeling.
Yeah, it feels as though it's always been old, you know, like it's all like it has always been, you know. Reassuring, that was the word I was thinking of about Antaeus. It's got this reassuring kind, and it's the same thing with Guerlain as well. Like you've got this, you know, you just know that it's going
like
to be
this feeling that's set in, and a comfortable feeling.
Absolutely.
Very well. Okay, that is number 2. Mitsuko. Is that a surprise for you at all?
A little bit. I wouldn't have said that was a leather perfume.
A leather
Pardon?
Well, we call it a fruity chypre, but to me it says, I get as much leather as peach. So
Yeah,
yes, it's not declared as a leather by Guerlain or the databases, but I definitely get an excellent leather accord in there that I love wearing.
yes. No, I get it.
Right.
So we are down to number one. I will proceed. If you give us 2 seconds, I will hydrate first. Number one. With all the perfumes that I have not included, I don't necessarily think this will come as a huge surprise to people because it hasn't shown up yet.
I can almost predict what it is, and we haven't discussed our list prior. I didn't know.
No, we haven't. No, we haven't. I've got no idea what your number one is.
He didn't know what I was going to have, but here we go.
Yeah. So, number one is, of course, really, the original Derby by Guerlain. This is my mighty eagle bottle, as it's called, even though it's not an eagle. It is a Roman soldier's breastplate. It was released in 1985, and this is an original release. It's been repackaged, reformulated a couple of times. For me, this is the best leather perfume that you can buy. I do not know whether this was marketed towards men, and I don't necessarily think it matters. Anybody could wear this. The reason I've got this at number one is not because I want to flex a massive bottle of an extremely rare perfume, which, even if you have got the money to buy, is hard to find. The reason it's number one is because, and the reason it's above Antaeus, is because of what we were just discussing about Mitsuko. The Guerlains do perfume, or did perfume, better than anyone else. This is the quintessence. This is the distillation of all those leather perfumes that came before, but done better. It is blended to within an inch of its life. It is perfectly pitched. There is no gaps. There's no places that are found wanting. There is top ingredients. This is before mass regulation and things like that. So it's got your oak moss in it. It's got sandalwood. I've heard tell that it was Mysore sandalwood, but I might be wrong. Everything about this is done very delicately,
it's very professional.
Very professional, very clever, very intelligently. It feels like, to me, this is, I think it was Jean-Paul Guerlain, wasn't it?
That's right.
This was Jean-Paul Guerlain at the height of his powers, right? This was Jean-Paul Guerlain at the height of his creativity, at the height of his technical expertise, at the height of his ability to bring out in other people quality perfume. This was when Guerlain was top of the tree, when it was the best perfume house in the world, and it was known. The Chanel had just started to reinvent themselves, with Jacques Polge coming in the late 70s and Karl Lagerfeld coming in the early 80s. They weren't the house that they have become since. Guerlain was by far the best perfume house in the world, and they offered this as their answer to Antaeus, their answer to Jules, their answer to Koros. It was their IBQ buttery leather, but it was, what makes it so great is the execution. This is what, for me, makes it my favorite leather. It's the execution. And there's one thing, no, sorry, there are two things I like that make this fragrance really stand out. The fact, one, the mint at the top, right? There's a mint note at the top of this, which has no earthly right being anywhere near this fucking perfume. Absolutely outrageous that they decided to put a mint in this, and it works perfectly. I fucking love it when houses do stuff like that. It's incredible. It's not something. If somebody said to you, "Let's make a leather perfume," I don't know, we'll stick mint at the top. How? What? How are you going to do that and make it work? It works beautifully, and it works in conjunction with the Artemisia and the oak moss and the jasmine, and it gives it this. It's like when you first open a door and you get the smell of the room you're about to enter first hits you. It's that initial introduction to something is the mint in this. Yeah, like what the hell is that doing? That you think this, you won't believe where this perfume goes after that mint note. And the more I smell this, and it's in whoever had this before me kept it in beautiful condition because all the top notes are there. The Artemisia, the bergamot in this is glorious, right? Yeah. And then it works its way down through the Artemisia into the mid. The mid is that kind of, we were talking about Chanel before with their floral mid, which is rose, jasmine, ylang ylang, and Guerlain. Frankly, I think they copied Guerlain for that mid, right? Because Guerlain have had that going on for a long time. It's a very classic sort of structure for the mid of a beautiful, if you want to make something smell like a beautiful perfume, you know. Yeah. It's got nutmeg in it, but the nutmeg provides this kind of spicy sort of, but not I don't want to say spicy, but not too spicy. It provides this kind of spiced like facet of the rest of the perfume. It gives it this kind of twist because it needs to twist from mint to leather, right? You can't go from mint to leather. The nutmeg flower is what it is, but the nutmeg aspect gives it that kind of like fork in the road moment. It gives it that permission to then develop into oak moss, leather, sandalwood in the base. This round, smooth, perfectly executed, creamy, buttery leather that smells better than all the other leathers that I've got. I can't put it. That is the distillation of what I'm trying to say. It just smells better than all the other leathers. I don't care if they just simply used IBQ. It's the whole package comes together to give this effect of someone at the height of their powers overseeing somebody else's creativity. So we know from Gabe Oppenheim's book, this was created by a lady who used to be a pilot whose name I can never remember, which is shocking. But he was with her making it. So he imbued his expertise into her creativity, and that kind of fits the perfume because of this change from bergamot mint through nutmeg and rose with jasmine down to this moss, leather, sandalwood. It's got, I don't want to say it's got two personalities. It's got one full palette personality. It's a very rounded, like if this was to be a person, it would be a very rounded human being, you know, somebody who was known like great joy and success and terrible like fucking angst and loss, you know. This has got everything. It's got that Guerlain melancholy, but it's also got this sprightly, cheeky little like bright top with bergamot and mint and artemisia, which has got this. The artemisia and the nutmeg, how they interact is very clever because they are like the kind of moving parts. You know, they're what allows the perfume to have what all great perfume should have, which is motion.
Yeah.
This is my number one. This is my number one leather perfume of all time.
Yeah. When I think Derby, the first thing that comes to my mind is classy. It's not as aggressive as Apollo. It's not as aggressive as Antaeus. It feels super smooth and intricately like blended. It goes through many stages. You get that barbershop fougere kind of shaving foam in the heart, that mossiness in the base. And again, like I've talked about this with, I get saddle leather. I get a horsey hay, horsey hooves with this as well. Horse saddle. Do you get that horsiness?
I don't get horsiness, no. I get this almost.
How would you describe the leather facets?
So give me 2 seconds while I apply it. It is. This is a splash bottle with the fucking.
It's quite dry. It's got a dryness to it. It feels like a wet top connected to like a dry sheepra.
Yes, it's definitely a sheepra. It is classy. I think you're absolutely spot on. It's done in that girl on. It's done in that girl on way where it's like it's undeniable. You know, there's like an inevitability about it. You know, it's like a. I don't get a. Do I get horse? Do I get animal? I'll tell you what I get. I get human, right? I get human from it. I get like a your skin but better sort of thing, which is an amazing thing for a perfume to be. You know, you don't find that in modern perfumes. You get like robot from modern perfumes, but this smells very human, right? And and humans are animals, right? We are part of nature, but it's got that kind of natural effect, that natural tone to it. It's got that. I know what you're saying when you say, oh, what is it? When you say like hoof, when you say like horse, you say hoof, and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I understand that. I do. It's got that. It's got that, but I would say it's more like the person riding the horse than it is like somebody who's interacting with nature, somebody who is a part of nature, and not apart from it. Like they are in it.
Yeah. So I've been hearing that. So Fosco says I get a lot of Vol de Nuit and Derby, and I've heard that before too, and I don't see that comparison. I don't see that connection. I don't get leather in Vol de Nuit. I'm not saying no one else does it or there's not there. I don't get it. I see a much greater connection and resemblance between Derby and Mitsuko, and I've always said that they're both these mossy, leathery sheepras. I feel like Derby is more complex. It has more to unfold and reveal, but I get the same sort of vibe with the leathers. Again, that horsiness, that hoof, that saddle. And that's probably why I love both of them so much. I get a lot of resemblances between these two. And if you have a hard time finding Derby and you want Derby, I think somebody could be possibly content with Mitsuko.
Yeah. I think Mitsuko, if you really want Derby, if you want this Derby, this specific one, the original one, you if you find it, you're gonna have to pay through your fucking nose for it, like I did. And if you find it, I mean, you're probably not going to find it. To be fair, the reformulation is actually really good, but it does lack a couple of aspects. It hasn't got the mint. I had the wooden frame one. It doesn't have that mint. It's actually much more of like a what you would expect a leather to smell like. You know, you can tell that it wasn't made by like Guerlain in the 80s. You can tell it was made by Guerlain in the 2000s. But like I say, I had it and I was content until I saw this. There's nothing wrong with the modern one. Apparently, they're going to re-release it again, and in a new bottle with the silly price tag.
Derby.
Yeah, apparently I've heard that. It's just shocking. But it's, for me, this is not something you can just, like, you will not see this in my rotation very often. It's not the type of thing you can just put on. You know,
where would you wear this?
Well, the last time I wore it was on my birthday. You know, like it's like a birthday fragrance, a Christmas fragrance. Sorry?
Happy belated birthday.
That was like 3-4 months ago now. Happy birthday to you. Your birthday was more recent than mine.
Thank you.
It's, happy birthday. Merry Christmas as well. But yes, this is for me a leather that will not, I can't see it being surpassed. I can't imagine anybody surpassing this leather, simply because you would have to do so much to surpass it. You would have to achieve so much. And you've got to remember, this was Jean-Paul Guerlain coming towards the end. You know, this was him in the mid to late 80s, when he was like at his like zenith. You know, when he still had his marbles, when he was like training other perfumers, when he was putting out other things in the 80s, which were fucking stunning as well. You know, Samsara came like 3 or 4 years after this. Apparently the lady who worked on this with him worked on Samsara as well, and then he did Heritage a few years after this. I mean, he was like, perfume after perfume after perfume was brilliant. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's the technical aspect, along with the fact that it's a leather and its structure, that has me convinced that this is like my favorite leather ever.
And no doubt it's a great one. Absolute great one. Gentlemanly, sophisticated, super smooth, super suave, dressed up. It's timeless.
It's incredible presentation as well. You know, when because they put it in the Listerine bottles in the early 90s. You know, now whether they reformulated it when they did that, I don't know. I would imagine they'd have to, because of the oak moss ban. Because there's a substantial amount of oak moss in this as well, which is another reason that I love it. Leather oak moss. Do you know what I mean? It's like, wow. But like this, the presentation for it as well. I fucking love that bottle. The fact that it's a big chunky 200ml as well. The only thing I don't like about it is the fact that it's a spray, that it's a splash, not a spray. But I can't imagine that bottle being a spray. That would be a fucking nightmare, simply because of how big it is. You'd have to use 2 hands, you know?
What was the story of inspiration behind this bottle? Was it Roman soldier, some sort of decorative pieces on Roman soldiers?
Yeah, it was. No, it was just the breastplate.
Okay.
It was just a Roman soldier's breastplate.
All
so
right.
that is
a stunning bottle. Hard to find, really rare. If you can get one, it's like you got a unicorn on your hands, right?
Yeah, it is. It's an absolute nightmare to find.
All right, great. Number 1 for Rich Mitch.
Yes.
And number 1 for me. I mean, this is not going to be a surprise. Cuir de Russie. Chanel's Cuir de Russie. And this is my favorite leather perfume to wear. Part probably the first of its kind of the Russian leathers, inspired by the boots of Russian soldiers who would clean them using birch tar, and that's how they got that accord. But I love this because, again, it's timeless. It has a beautiful floral heart, musty. You get that leathery aspect of the boots. Very soapy. It's got a really soapy vibe, almost like a classic sense of very expensive soapiness. But it's also got, there's a naughtiness to this that I love, a dirtiness, a sexual quality that I see. It's almost like they were trying to interpret Coco Chanel's affair with this Russian soldier. And I get aspects of that to me because it smells like sex. It smells like a place I've been before. It smells like a place I like. It smells like dirty skin. It smells like inner thigh, like armpit, like garter belt. It's sensual. It's also like, that birch tar is sort of like scratchy the way fingernails would go down the back of a lover's skin, right? So
yeah,
to me, it's dirty. It's got, again, and I've kept using this, and people have noticed, like, that horsiness, that horse leather. Here I get, again, horse hair or human hair, some aspect of hair. I don't know if it's woman's hair or horse hair, but there's something hairy here.
a hairy enough thigh.
Yeah, it's definitely hairy, right? It's hairy, it's sexual, it's leathery, it's green and floral, and I love wearing it. I love the way it makes me feel, and it feels timeless. Again, it feels like an old soul. It feels like, many, many, many generations ago, that these generations don't exist anymore.
Do you feel like some of the appeal of it is this, like, nostalgia for something you've never experienced? Like it's like a yearning for something that you have experienced. You have experienced yourself, but not in the same context. Like, you've experienced that sort of sexual encounter, that hormone, like, driven human experience, but yours was 80 years after when this was released. So it's not that it's almost the same, but this takes you that extra 10-20% that you're missing because you weren't doing it in the 1920s, you were doing it in the 2000s.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. It's very sexual. It feels like, going down. I feel like I'm in between the thighs of a woman. I feel like I'm in a place that I want to be, that is familiar to me and is cozy, but like you said, it feels timeless. There's this essence of coldness to this perfume. There's that feeling of warmth coming from the lover's skin, but there's that coldness of the florals, the mossiness, which provides this really great contrast. It's almost like having sex in a cold room, maybe. There's that almost like a feeling of detachment as well.
Yeah, like you're lost in thought. You're lost in like your own experience, and there's like a detachment from the rest of the world, sort of thing. You're very focused.
Yeah. Very floral, very musty. When they say granny perfume, that term, granny perfume? This is what comes to mind.
Yes. It's almost like, I don't want to say stale sex, but like not old person sex, but like old person thinking about when they used to have sex,
Yeah.
sort of thing, like a reminiscing.
I think, in this perfume, it's almost like the perfumer was, he captured all the essences that the body can create sexually. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and he's captured those, and he's put. I'm not sure if he's like, if there was sort of this game that the perfumer was playing, if he was doing it outright intentionally. Was he trolling us, or is this what the wearer becomes?
yeah.
Is this the idea of the wearer, or was this intentionally? It kind of feels like the perfumer is trolling,
I know what you mean. It's for me that birch, slightly stale, old. Like it smells like after sex, but before like clean. Like it smells like after sex, but before the shower.
Yeah, because there's an element of cleanliness here. There's that element of soapiness. It's like clean soap contrasting dirty skin, dirty crevices. Not dirty, but like a sense of that vulgarity.
Yeah, and it's not like there's a. I don't want to say there's an incoherence about it. There's a mixed fluid. Like two different people who have like mixed their fluids, like rather than just like one person's fluids. Like it smells like you and someone else.
Yeah. Or it's
You
like
plus
walking
one.
into a room where that smells of sex.
Yes.
Right? There's a big element of sex here. And this to me, when I smelled this the first time, it was like love at first smell. Absolutely loved it. I love the floral aspect. I love like the old mustiness, slight decay, the green, the woodiness, the dryness. Again, it's got some more mossiness and stuff like that, but absolutely, but very soft leather, very sensual leather, right? Maybe even softer than that in Derby, I would say. Very soft and elegant.
Yes, it's reference. I mean, if we were, like I said before, if we were talking about like the most influential leather perfume, this would probably be number one. Or the one that's like probably like seeped into like public consciousness and stuff like that. It's had the greatest impact and stuff. It would probably be Quai de Russie.
Yeah, I would agree. The first of its kind, the first Russian leather, the first birch tar leather. Who does a great version of this? And I was really strongly debating putting this on the list, but I don't wear it very often. Is Coeur de Lancôme, which is also an excellent version of that Russian leather. This might even be it's spicier for sure, but it's almost in that same context of Chanel's Russian leather.
No, I know. I've smelled Quai de Lancôme. It's very good.
It's excellent, yeah. But yeah, I love just kind of the naughtiness of this, which it's always running there in the subconscious when I wear it. When I spend time, I always get that reminder, which is a good thing. Because men tend to steer that way naturally, right? Maybe we don't need that reminder, but
yeah, it's yeah. No, I agree. If I could have. The thing with this list is that you could have put like almost any of these first. I mean, there's a few I wouldn't have, but like There's a few. I mean, I could have put Quer de Russie number one. I would have felt all right with it. I could have put Mona Diorio number one. I would have felt all right with it. You know, Fahrenheit. Do you want to run back through your top 10 before we?
Download saying no mention of Queer Moresque. Do you own Queer Moresque, Rich?
Yes.
Did you think about putting it on the list?
No.
Why not?
I don't think it's. I can think. I could have rhymed off. I'll tell you what it is. I could rhyme off another 10 leather fragrances that I think are better than it. Not just the top 10 that I've got.
Yeah.
I could think of another 10 that I've got that I think are better than Queer Moresque. And I love Serge Luton. And I like Queer Moresque, but it.
I felt the same way. I felt the same way.
Yeah. I mean, I'll read some of the ones that I didn't put on here that I wanted to. Right? There's Knisa 10, which I think is amazing. Leather Oud, obviously. Macassar, obviously. Eau de Hermes. Roche Aspem's got a lovely leather note. Patou Pour Homme. Patou Pour Homme. Koros. Azaro Pour Homme. Jour. You know, like Leather Oud. Like there's absolutely nightmare scenario trying to get 10 fragrances into a list. That's why I don't do many lists. One of the reasons I don't.
It is. It's really tough to narrow down. And we've been talking about doing this for years.
Yes. But I'm pretty happy to stand by this list, actually, and the way I've done it. You know, I haven't just like picked these 10 leather fragrances out my arse and been like,
right. You've been wearing them for years.
Yeah, exactly. I've owned all of these for a long time, and I know them well. Maybe I've had like minis. I've got about 2 or 3 minis of the Vintage Derby, so I've known it for a long time, but I've just haven't had the bottle for a long time, you know. But yes,
brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and I felt bad. You know, there was a lot of things that were left out, but that's just the nature of these types of videos.
Yes.
Yes. But I'm happy with my list. These are things that it's taken me years to compile this in that kind of order, but yeah, I'm happy and I stand by it as well. Great list.
Absolutely.
Great.
We should do patchoulis next.
There's a lot of things that can be done. Yeah.
Patchoulis, tobaccos, incenses. Mental.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can be done, but I guess taking your time is
yeah, it's been a 3.5 hour shift, hasn't it?
Something out there then for the purpose of putting a video out.
No, I totally agree with you. I couldn't do one of these every week. I just
Amberwood's next.
Oh God, not Amberwoods. Never Amberwoods. No, I can't smell Amberwoods. They're fucking rotten.
What are some of the latest leathers that have come out that you've enjoyed? Anything like a lot of these are, we're going back.
I don't think leathers are. I mean, ombre leather's a good leather, but it's just Tuscan. It's just Tuscan leather. It's just Tuscan leather light. You know.
Yeah. I think from my collection, the most modern are the Bottega Veneta, the Cuir d'Ange, and Tuscan leather, and then a lot of them are really, going back. Polo,
Gucci Guilty Absolute, Lone Star Memories, and Mona Diorio's Queer, Queer Canage as well. They're the only ones that have come out in this century. Leather leather's not a big subject matter anymore in perfume, is it? No,
it's all sweetness, bubblegum, cotton candy, ice cream, vanilla.
Yeah. If I had found, and I've sampled a lot, I do the First Impressions series on my channel, and I've sampled a lot of perfumes, and if there had been some that I thought were good enough to buy compared to the older ones that I've got, I would have bought them and they would have been available to us, but they just aren't. Leather is not a big leather is not a big thing these days unless it's something like Tuscan leather, you know.
Yeah.
Tuscan leather I would have liked to have included, but all of them I would have liked to have included, but there's only 10 spots, you know.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of support for Gallo. Had him as Gallo. Gallop.
Gallop.
Gallop. I
Oh
think that's
dear.
an excellent perfume.
I'm not
Excellent.
as familiar with it as I should be because I do see a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah. One of Nigel's best. I don't like it more than Cuir d'Ange though.
No, I understand.
Don't like it more than Cuir d'Ange. And I don't like Violette Violinka more than Cuir d'Ange either.
Do you not?
I think it's because of that sweet fruitiness. Is it raspberry? What is it? It's violet raspberry fruitiness. Great leather, but not better than Cuir d'Ange.
No. Oh, right. I am ready to go. I am hungry and I'm tired.
There you go. It's a 3-hour, 40-minute top 10 leather perfumes, 20 leathers altogether, plus 2 horrible honorable mentions. That is 22 leathers. The great thing is not a lot of our picks had overlapped, so we didn't. I think
No.
there was Derby. Oh well, there's Derby Bellamy and Cuir de Russie.
Yeah,
But other
I
than
think
that,
you've got that's a lot of content. I would have enjoyed watching this video.
yeah, that just goes to show how great those leathers actually are if they're on both of our lists.
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
great
Thank
list.
you very much. Thank you very much for having us. I've enjoyed this greatly.
Thank you for coming on. I love this as much as you did and everybody in the chat. We were over 100 at one point. So awesome. We'll do it again soon. Guys, go over and subscribe to Rich Mitch. I'll drop his link in the description after this video. But thank you everybody for being here. It's awesome. I'm gonna go back and read all the comments that I missed because I was trying to be engaging with you instead of really concentrated on the comments, but it was awesome. Thanks so much, Rich. Thanks so much, chat. We'll see everybody soon. Take care.
Goodbye. Bye.